Hello, hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Everyone all right? Everyone okay? Let me know in the comments where you guys are tuning in from. What city, what town, what country, what county. And do excuse the wait. We had some tech issues we're trying to work through. So, I see we've got a couple hundred people tuned in. I'm live streaming everywhere. So we're on Rumble, we're on Rockfin, we're on YouTube, and we're on Odyssey. Everywhere. And now we have people tuning in from Germany, from Romania, London, Canada, Wales, Ohio, another one from Germany, Yugoslavia, Greece, Siberia, Poland, London, Canada, Nigeria, Moldova, Norway, Iran, from Isfahan in Iran. Hopefully I can go one day. It's beautiful. Pakistan, Russia, Nigeria, Iceland, Serbia, Atlanta, Georgia, Buffalo, New York, and New Zealand, Finland, you know, pretty much the whole world. So Gunny is here as well. Yes, yes. Missouri, Chicago, Pakistan, Tunisia. Beautiful, beautiful. So I thought we could start with the biggest one, which is really Assad in China, you know. So give me a second to pull that up and we'll go through it, okay? We'll because he arrived yesterday basically, but I didn't want to go live yet because I knew that he won't meet Xi Jinping until today. Okay? So they just met a few hours ago and you know, basically signed a lot of very, very important deals. So give me a second over here. Okay, you guys can see that? Now it should be fixed. Okay, good. So Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, is now in China. This is huge, huge, huge news. This is his first visit to China since 2004, okay? And if you look at what's been happening in the past year, Bashar al-Assad and Syria as a country is being brought back into the fold, right? So not just when it comes to the Arab League, which we saw a few months ago in summer, and not just with, you know, Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Tunisia and so on, but also internationally, right? And this is a huge, huge slap in the face to the United States. I mean, let's just say it up front. Huge, huge slap in the face. I mean, can you imagine how angry and upset the spooks in Washington are right now? Like just crying their eyes out when they see this. When they see this. Oh, they've been working over a decade, right? Those poor souls, they've been working over a decade to make sure that Bashar al-Assad is removed from power and Syria is turned into a, you know, another vassal client state in the Middle East that has no autonomy, no independence, nothing. So Thursday, Bashar al-Assad arrives in China, and remember, he's being invited to China, okay? And this is at the same time that you have the Asian Games beginning, so there's the opening ceremony, which he'll also be attending. And, you know, he gets the red carpet treatment. Comment now from Sam K. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Sam is saying that the funniest and the best part of Assad being in China is knowing that somewhere in Washington, D.C., Charles Lister is crying into his pillow. Yeah. The Al-Qaeda groups didn't work. They didn't do their job. Oh my God. I mean, I really cannot overstate how important this is, because there are multiple angles to this. You know, why would Xi Jinping, why would China invite Bashar al-Assad at this time specifically? Well, it's because, you know, when we talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, which Syria joined last year, which is basically the revival of the Silk Road. So in ancient times, you used to have a trade route called the Silk Road, which would start in China and go all the way through Asia, and of course pass through Syria, right? Through Aleppo, through Palmyra, which are, you know, UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And so the idea with the new Silk Road is that you bring back this massive, you know, infamous trade route, which benefits everybody, really. And you add to it a maritime trade route, you know, and make it very, very complex and something that looks like this, right? And so Syria has to be a part of that. Why? Because Syria has access to the Mediterranean Sea, okay? Remember that just a few weeks ago, Iran and Iraq signed a railway deal. So it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You know, you've got this road, this literal, you know, Silk Road that starts in China, goes through Asia. Now you need to get from Iran to Iraq, so you have the railway. And then when you get into Iraq, you need to get to Syria to get to the Mediterranean Sea, right? So one piece at a time, everything's being put together. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And the fact that, you know, there are these sanctions on Syria, these Caesar Act sanctions, which, remember, the sanctions are illegal, right? They're unilateral coercive measures. They have no validity whatsoever. So the United States couldn't win by overthrowing Assad. They couldn't win militarily. So now they try to squeeze Syria, you know, make people's lives so miserable that they go and overthrow their president. That's the idea behind sanctions. It's like siege warfare. So they're turning up the heat on Syria and saying any country that does business with Syria in any capacity, you know, you're selling microwaves, you're giving toothpaste, doesn't matter. Banned, we will take your assets, we will seize your assets, we will, basically cancel your visas. You will not allowed to have any business in you won't be allowed to have any business in the US, etc., etc., right? They scare you. China doesn't give a crap. China says, I really don't care. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you just how much I resent your sanctions. I'm going to invite Bashar al-Assad all the way to China. Red carpet. So you see why this is so important, okay? If you don't count the Arab countries that Assad has visited in the last years, you have, okay, because I'm talking about like Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. Let's just look at the other ones. What are the only non-Arab countries that Bashar al-Assad has visited? Russia, Iran, and now China. It's not a coincidence, right? It's not a coincidence. These are the spearheads, right? These are the ones leading the charge towards a multipolar world. And Syria is going to be a part of that multipolar world. Make no question, no question about it, right? No question about it. So what have they done now? They've signed agreements. It's not just about, oh, hello, it's nice to meet you. No. They're getting down to business, tout de suite. So you can see here they were meeting. Unfortunately, there are no subtitles to this. It's just, I just want to show you the video, right? So Xi Jinping is over there, and you can see Bashar al-Assad on the left. And, they're hashing things out. And, of course, you have the Syrian Foreign Minister, Faisal al-Mikdad, who's accompanying Bashar al-Assad. And they've signed several agreements now, okay? So they've signed a memorandum of understanding. And remember, these are in addition to the fact that Syria already joined the Belt and Road Initiative, which is also another way of saying the new Silk Road. So now they've signed agreements in regards to nanotechnology, mobile phones, medical equipment, all sorts of industrial machines and capacities and capabilities, basically increasing the number of Chinese exports, scholarships as well, having people from Syria go and study in China, training them in China in whatever field it is, right? And then having them come back to Syria and reteach and use the experience that they've gained in China, right? This is also very, very important. This learned experience and the degrees that they would earn in China to bring back that knowledge to Syria, because unfortunately you've had a large brain drain occurring in Syria, right? So brain drain is when you have all the so-called, skilled labor, which is, I don't really like that term, but they basically mean all the people with diplomas leaving the country for whatever reason it is. And in this case, it was war, of course, right? So, yeah, a lot of people with diplomas, architects, doctors, lawyers, whatever, who now they've left Syria because of the war, And now the countries that take them in, they get to benefit from a free workforce, right? So Turkey is about 2-3 million Syrian refugees. Germany, I think, is the next country that took in the most Syrian refugees. Canada, all these countries now have a free workforce, which they also helped create, right? Remember, a lot of these countries, Turkey especially, they helped create the situation in Syria. They were funding and are funding a lot of terrorist groups in Syria, okay? So China is China has a completely different attitude when it comes to foreign policy. And their idea is that they're going to deal, on respectful terms with any country. They're not going to go into a region taking sides, and that includes the Middle East, right? Which, I mean, I take issue with, because for China doesn't want to get involved in, Syria and Israel have a fight. China doesn't care. China's going to do business with Israel, and it's going to do business with Syria, okay? So yeah, I mean, I have a problem with that, but again, at least the Chinese, they're consistent with their foreign policy. They actually want to be neutral. It's not like some facade or something, right? So in this case, of course, with Syria, this is a much, much deeper relationship than China has with other countries. Okay, when you had Bashar al-Assad and Xi Jinping speaking today, they're very, very clear, in how they pick their words and choose their words. They were saying multipolar world, so this is, it's part of this whole vision. It's about fixing instability, right? So in the face of all the instability that has been inflicted on Syria, China is going to be a stabilizing factor, right? China is going to come in and try to fix that, basically. And remember, China for many years has protected Syria at the United Nations. So when we look at the Security Council, you have 5 permanent members and 10 others that rotate. And the permanent members include China, Russia, the UK, US, and France, right? So basically the victors of World War II. And if you're a permanent member on the Security Council, you have veto power. So whatever resolution somebody tables, you can just strike it down. And that's exactly what China and Russia have done for many years, right? China protected Syria from, resolutions that were trying to legalize, basically, a strike on Syria or sanctions on Syria. China shut them down every time, okay? And so you've seen that for a long time now, that China just doesn't care about the US sanctions, about US agenda or EU agenda in Syria, and it really just wants to protect Syria. And it understands that there's a critical role to be played when we talk about the Silk Road. Okay, China's also come out and said the United States is stealing oil from Syria, so they're not afraid to say the truth, right? So this is all about strengthening ties and making sure that when time comes to really, put that new Silk Road into practice, that Syria is going to be there, and Syria is going to be capable enough, meaning Syria will have the infrastructure there existing, and the people trained and ready to accommodate this new Silk Road, which will, of course, offer China a gateway into the Mediterranean Sea. So absolutely, absolutely crucial, right? Absolutely crucial. This is really, really important for China to do, okay? Not because it's China that benefits from it. Everybody benefits from it. Remember, when we talk about the Mediterranean Sea, you have Latakia port in Syria. A few years ago, China, for example, they donated 800 generators to Latakia port. And look at the difference in behavior. China gives infrastructure, donates industrial machines and parts to Syria. Turkey steals Syria's industry, literally going in the factories, dismantling all the machines and taking the stuff into Turkey, right? Thousands of machines. And then Israel bombs Latakia port, which I just mentioned, right? And then they say, I mean, I even posted it. There's a container on fire, and it's Nescafe 3-in-1, these bags of instant coffee that are on fire. But according to Israel, there are weapons in the port. I mean, yeah, so what? Let's say there are weapons in the port. I mean, it's okay for NATO to give Ukraine all these weapons, but it's not okay for Iran or Russia to give Syria weapons. Come on. In any case, it's just a lie. The real reason, and I'm going to get into that afterwards when I talk about Netanyahu and Saudi Arabia, there's another agenda at play here. It's not about weapons, being in Latakia. It's something else. So basically, the UN last year, they said that Syria needs around $400 billion in investments to rebuild the country. $400 billion. So you see, remember this when you hear something like, oh, well, the United States is giving $15 million in aid to Syria. Those are pennies. Those are literally pennies compared to the damage that has been done to Syria. 400 billion versus a few million. That is pocket change. It's an insult, right? Never mind the oil that's being stolen, which the United States then sells, you know, or even if it doesn't sell it, it's still depriving Syrians of that money, right, of that revenue. So you see the difference in behavior, right? It's quite staggering. And let me show you here. This is from Global Times, right, which is a Chinese outlet. They were saying that Xi Jinping emphasized that China will continue to firmly support Syria on issues concerning its core interests and major concerns. Work with Syria to safeguard the common interests of developing countries. So basically, you know, they're talking about BRICS and Belt and Road, and support Syria in opposing foreign interference, Israel and America and Turkey and Saudi Arabia and so on. Rejecting unilateralism and bullying, and safeguarding national independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, right? So again, this is also from Press TV. An analyst they were interviewing said that Beijing and Damascus are likely to come up with investment agreements in line with efforts to reconstruct Syria and undo the destruction caused by foreign-backed terrorists, right? So China basically wants to increase Syria's economic power through its own, of course, right? Remember, China is the largest emerging economy in the world. China is on track to overtake the US, let's put it that way. So these agreements will be expanded to include food, pharmaceutical, and technological sectors. And China could help ensure Syria's food security at a time when conflicts, including the Ukraine war, have challenged the global markets, right? And of course, combating the Caesar Act sanctions, which I was just talking about a moment ago. So this is really enormous. I really cannot... I cannot overstate enough how important this is. And it's so funny because I was watching, you know, I was basically listening to what the media are saying about it and so on. And I came across this Israeli channel, right? I wanted to see what they were saying about this visit. And so I don't know who this dunce is, this absolute dunce that they were interviewing is. But she said something like, you know, China is basically... China is trying to court the global south at the same time that the US is trying to court the global south. And the US, who said the US is trying to court the global south? The US doesn't give a crap. The US is trying to rob the global south, more like it, you know? And that China is basically just trying to, you know, tick off like check boxes, you know, and I mean, just add Syria to the list of countries that it's courted. What is this bullshit analysis? Such garbage, like absolute garbage. You're so dumb. It's about the Mediterranean Sea. I just spelled it out for you, man. It's about Belt and Road. This from CGTN. Beyond economics, there is a need for interpersonal engagement between Syria and China. Scholarships for professional training in Syria are becoming more prevalent in China, right? Syrian professionals might learn about global best practices, new technology, and advanced education in China via training scholarships. These are the same ones I mentioned earlier, right? So these trained people might return to Syria with significant information and experience, helping the country to thrive. Such programs demonstrate the many advantages of international relationships beyond trade, right? Beyond just trade. So this is where we're at. This is where we're at, okay? And I'm going to get into this in a separate video, but you really have a competition right now, not between, the US trying to court the global south. This is rubbish. You have a competition right now between BRICS and you know, the New Silk Road and the global south versus Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United States, and their system, their economic pipeline. And I'm going to go into that in a bit momentarily. Okay, so just to wrap this up, once again, huge news. What an absolute slap in the face of Charles Lister and Obama and Cameron and Boris Johnson, all of them, every single one of them. This is such a slap in the face. You know, they were saying for years, Assad must go, Assad has to go. Like, you know, there's a joke, there's a meme online, although it's really not a joke. It's scary. It's ominous and eerily true. There's something called the Assad curse, right? So every politician that said Assad has to go ends up going themselves, right? So they either lose their jobs or they get kicked out or their terms are up and they're gone. And Assad is still there. Assad remains. It's funny. It's really funny. Actually, I'm going to look it up for you right now. Hold on. Let me look this up. They have complete memes about this, right? Yeah. This is one of them. Take a look. Oh my God. Yeah, you see this? Assad must go curse. So they're all gone, but he's still there. There's even an extended version, right? Because as time goes on, the list of people, the list of people gets longer as time goes on. Yeah, it's really funny. Look, Sarkozy is gone, right? Obama is gone. Cameron is gone. Down here we've got Boris Johnson, Trump. They're all gone. Hollande is gone. All of them. And he's still there. And so I find this very funny because, you know, Assad must go. Yeah, he went. Where did he go this year? He went to the Arab League. Syria's back in the Arab League. Syria, you know, got its ties back with Jordan. So, you know, a blooming of ties with Jordan, Tunisia, Saudi Arabia, with Egypt, and, you know, of course, Syria joining the Belt and Road Initiative last year, and now Assad goes to meet Xi Jinping, and of course I mentioned Russia and China, where he also visited. And the UAE is another country, but that was that's more than a year ago. So yeah, Assad must go, but not in the direction that you think. Let's put it that way. I really have no doubt that they're crying their eyes out right now, because you have a lot of, like, you know, bitter Syrian opposition people, and you know, like spooks, and people like Charles Lister, who really worked hard to get rid of the government in Syria, and they failed so bad. It's so bad, and it's so funny watching the commentary in the news. You know, like, they just cannot explain. They cannot understand why, you know, Syria is being brought back into the fold and normalized. No, you're the ones who need to be normalized, you know, with your behavior. What they did against Syria is very, very, very dirty. Very dirty. The dirtiest modern war that I can think of, without question. The dirtiest campaign. So many countries, so many groups. Jesus, it's still not even done. It's still not even over. It's still going on. So before I think anything can proceed, what needs to happen is that Iran and Russia and you know, Hezbollah and PMU and so on, they need to get rid of the Americans who are stealing the oil and occupying 1/3 of Syria, and, you know, get rid of Turkey, which is also occupying another chunk of Syria, and get rid of Israel, which is in the south, occupying the Golan Heights, right? They've tried to carve it up in a million pieces. But China and others like it, who are civilized, right, who practice, you know, foreign policy based on mutual respect, based on agreement, who don't steal, who rather, instead of stealing, come to agreements, you know, that are mutually beneficial. That's what China's doing, right? They're smart. They get it. We've got a super chat here. This is from Benoit Lapierre. Thank you, Benoit, for the donation. Benoit says, President Bio from Sierra Leone is cooperating, built an embassy in Israel. Such an unusual move. Is this pro-Western or anti-hegemonic? Qatar and China networking also extensively in our lands. Thank you. I don't know about Sierra Leone. I didn't hear about that. But I'm going to talk about Israel in a second. Actually, there's a lot to say. I would say it's more pro-Western, though, than anti-hegemonic. Let's put it that way. You know, Qatar and China, yeah, that's the thing with China, is that, like I said, when they say they're neutral, they actually mean it. And that means that you have to tolerate that China, you know, if you're working with China, you have to tolerate the fact that China is going to have ties with Israel or whoever else. Yeah, because, yeah, at least they're consistent. But I do take issue with it. I don't think it's, you know, it's okay for like, they're smart. The Chinese are very smart. I think they can see when someone is behaving unfairly, and the Chinese, they stand up to the United States. So why shouldn't they stand up to Israel, right? I think that's a good question to ask. But you know what? Let me talk about hold on. Give me a second here, and let me move on to the next thing. Thank you for the donations and the questions. I appreciate it very much. And let's talk about Saudi Arabia and Israel, because this is another huge topic. This is another big one. So I want to talk about Saudi Arabia normalizing ties with Israel. So you might have been under the impression, after the peace deal that China mediated between Saudi Arabia and Iran, that everything was fine, and that Saudi Arabia was changing direction, and it certainly did look like that for a while. But I suppose that was wrong to be slightly optimistic, because behind the scenes, Saudi Arabia never stopped working towards normalizing ties with Israel, and this is absolutely scandalous. And I want to show you a clip. This is from Fox News. This is Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, giving an interview to Fox News and talking about normalizing ties with Israel, which, as I said, is so scandalous, really scandalous. Okay, I'm going to play the clip. Give me a second here.
This deal is Israel. What would it take for you to agree to normalize relations with Israel?
Well, there is approach from President Biden administration to get to that point. For us, the Palestinian issue is very important. We need to solve that part, and we have a good negotiations continue till now. We gotta see where it will go. We hope that it will reach a place that it will ease the life of the Palestinians and get Israel back, as a player in Middle East.
There were reports that you had suspended talks.
No, that's not true.
Not true. So you think, if you were to characterize it, are you close?
Every day we get closer. It seems it's for the first time real one, serious. We're gonna see how it goes.
Can you make a deal with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? Is that somebody you can deal with?
Well, in Saudi Arabia policy, we don't interfere who's running each country, who's there. We work with him. Now we don't have a relation with Israel, but if Biden administration succeeded to make, I believe, the biggest historical deal since the end of the Cold War, then we're gonna start a relationship, and that relationship gonna be continuous regardless of who's running Israel. So,
I mean, he said,
wow, he's really he's hell-bent on having a relationship with Israel.
73, you're 38, but you think maybe there's a chance that you could deal with him?
If we have a breakthrough of reaching a deal that give the Palestinians their needs and make the region come, we're gonna work with whoever's there.
Not to go too far, but the concessions Israel would have to give the Palestinians, what would that look like?
That's
leaving and going back to Europe.
Part of the negotiation.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to describe things because I want to see really a good life for the Palestinians. So I want just to continue the negotiation with the Biden administration to be sure.
Well, on the U.S. side, would there be a defense pact maybe between the Saudi Arabia and the United States? And what would it look like, Article 5 in NATO?
Yeah, first of all, we have some sort of that in the past 80 years. We are the biggest buyer from American armament manufacturing. I believe Saudi Arabia alone is bigger than the next 5 buyers from America. So Saudi Arabia is critical in your armament import economically.
So look, I'm gonna,
just as the U.S. is holding,
I'm gonna spell this out for you, okay? When he says, well, the condition for a deal with Israel is that, the Palestinians have a good life. What does that mean, a good life? Everyone gets a flat screen TV and, a soft drink. What is a good life? They get their land back. This could mean anything. This could mean literally anything. Also, why only the Palestinians? Have you forgotten that Israel is occupying the Golan Heights in Syria? This is not some joke. We're talking about, one of the most strategic points in the whole goddamn region. There's oil and gas there. There's water, there's snow. 1/3 of Israeli drinking water comes from the Golan Heights, which are Syrian. Why isn't that a condition? Now, obviously, that's not more important than the Palestinian issue, obviously, because they, them getting their lands back is I would put that first. But he's too abstract. Do you see what I mean? He's far too abstract. And is he consulting the Palestinians on this? Is he consulting them to know that they are actually going to benefit from it? Instead of just consulting the Israelis. I don't know. I think this is very shady. I think this is indefensible. This is indefensible behavior. Indefensible. You know, this is the worst thing on earth that you could do. The worst thing. Truly, it's scandalous. It's so scandalous. Like, out of all the things you could do, this guy's so rich. He has so much power. And what does he think about? Oh, yeah, normalizing ties with Israel. No, screw Israel. Why don't you cut oil production, right? And put pressure on Israel or do something else. No. Can't do that, right? This is why. Let me play you Benjamin Netanyahu's speech, a clip from his speech today at the UN, at the General Assembly, right? Look at this.
To understand the magnitude of the transformation that we seek to advance, let me show you a map of the Middle East in 1948, the year Israel was established. Here's Israel in 1948.
Yeah, the year you ethnically cleansed Palestine, but okay.
It's a tiny country, isolated, surrounded by a hostile Arab world.
Yeah, when you go into a neighborhood and you steal somebody's home, I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be hostile to you. Like, what do you expect? Champagne and roses?
Our first 70 years, we made peace with Egypt and Jordan. And then in 2020...
Literally no one in Egypt and Jordan has made peace with Israel. Except the government, yeah, like on paper. No one in Egypt or Jordan likes Israel. They would, cancel that piece of crap in a second, in a split second, in a micro goddamn second.
We made the Abraham Accords, peace with another 4 Arab states.
Yeah, another
now
4
look
countries.
At what happened.
Another 4 countries. First of all, the UAE is not a country. 80% of the inhabitants are not Arab; they're foreigners. And when it comes to Sudan, Morocco, and Bahrain, literally everybody, again, hates Israel and wants nothing to do with it. So you bribed like 5 people. That's what it really is.
When we make peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel, the whole Middle East changes. We tear down the walls of enmity. We bring the possibility of prosperity and peace to this entire region.
Thank you. I bow before your grace. Thank you for the peace and prosperity. We are blessed.
But we do something else.
What now?
A few years ago, I stood here with a red marker.
Hey, you better watch out. Watch out. He's got the red marker. You don't want to see the Israeli prime minister whip out the red marker, right? And put an X next to your name. You better settle down, class. Fuck does he think he is?
To show the curse, a great curse.
Good. Highlight Israel.
The curse of a nuclear Iran. But today I bring this marker to show a great blessing. The blessing of a new Middle East between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and our other neighbors. We will not only bring down barriers between Israel and our neighbors, we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, to Europe. This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change. And
actually, the people clapping, half the General Assembly was empty. He brought the Israeli delegation to just like clap extra. This is the point, though. This is exactly what I was getting at. Do you see what he just drew? So this is an economic corridor going from India to the UAE, through Saudi Arabia, through Jordan, through Israel, and onto Europe. This is what the plan is. This is why Mohammed bin Salman is saying we're going to normalize ties with Israel, because Saudi Arabia needs to normalize ties with Israel so that this corridor works, geographically speaking, right? Again, look at the map that he just drew, okay?
Through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, to Europe.
Or rather, the route he just drew. Do you see what this is? This is in direct competition with what? With what? What does this compete against? Anyone want to guess? I'll wait because there's a delay. Tell me in the comments right now. What do you think this competes against? Go on, whip it out. Go on. I'll wait. just take a guess. Just take a guess what this is meant to compete with. There we go. There you go. You got it. BRI, right? Belt and Road Initiative, Silk Road. Exactly. Look at the contradiction here. Look at the contradiction. The Silk Road, the new Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative, right? This is the same thing. So this is the project that China has commenced to bring back the ancient trade route known as the Silk Road, which started in China, goes all the way through Asia, through Syria, and so on. The new Silk Road, so the modern revival of the ancient Silk Road, looks like this, okay? So there's a maritime route, there's a land route, and so on, okay? Do you see any of this going through what is supposedly Israel? No, of course not. So when we talk about the ships, they go through the Suez Canal, right? So that involves Egypt. And then when we talk about the land route, it goes through Iran, it goes through Iraq, it goes through Syria, Turkey, and so on. Israel gets nothing from this, and they shouldn't either. Netanyahu doesn't like this because he wants Israel to become some sort of hub, right? They want to normalize Israel and like shove it in your fucking face. Like, you know, tolerate us, legitimize us, recognize us. The United States doesn't want the Belt and Road Initiative or the new Silk Road either because they hate China, right? Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, he's trying to also make Saudi Arabia, you know, some big giant hub, right? And I'll talk about the sports in a second, but he is trying to modernize Saudi Arabia, right? People call him a dreamer, right? He's a planner. He's a man who schemes and you know, I do mean that in a good way, like architecturally speaking and so on. But the point is, at the end of the day, they hate this plan. They hate the Belt and Road Initiative. So they're trying to forge their own iteration of that. They're trying to go against China. They're trying to go against Syria. They're trying to go against Iran and make their own thing that you can see. You see where my mouse is? So this would supposedly, you know, it start in India. You go to the UAE, through Saudi Arabia, right? Through Jordan, Israel, and then on to Europe. And you remember, you had Ursula von der Leyen, bitch, who's the head of the EU. She went to Israel, right? And she said that Israel is now our partner. Israel is going to supply us with gas because we're so stupid. Well, she's so stupid and sanctioned Russian gas and oil. So now we need a new source. And of course, Israel is going to get that gas by stealing it from Lebanon, right? From the Karish gas fields, the unexplored or untapped gas under the Mediterranean Sea, right? So she basically made it official that, yeah, Israel is going to be supplying Europe, okay? So this is not just about gas, though. It's about having an economic corridor for goods to flow through, okay? So I'm trying to point that out to you. It's both about gas, about Israel supplying gas to Europe, and it's also about goods flowing through Israel to Europe. So he's trying to plan this. He's trying to plot this, right? And he's making it public. He's making it public. And that's why Mohammed bin Salman, literally at the same day as giving that interview to Fox, right? And announcing it. So both sides are announcing this, and yeah, they're quite shameless about it. But again, the thing is that you know, the Saudi Arabian government, they can make peace with Israel, but that doesn't mean people in Saudi Arabia have made peace with Israel. No one, literally no one, no goddamn one in any Arab country wants anything to do with Israel. As a matter of fact, it's not just in Arab countries. You saw during the Qatar World Cup how the Israeli journalists, because remember, they were allowed to actually go there, right? So the Israeli channels thought, oh, we're going to go there and, you know, like interview football fans and try to cover the World Cup. And it turns out nobody wanted to talk to them. I put together this whole thread, and they put it in Newsweek magazine. It was in a whole bunch of mainstream outlets. I'm surprised they picked it up. I'm glad they did. You got people from everywhere, from Japan, from Morocco. They just, as soon as they find out it's an Israeli channel, they start running the other way. They want nothing to do with them. Nothing. Not even giving an interview about football. Nothing. Now, speaking of sports, by the way, this brings me to my next point. Look at what he asks him. And by the way, shout out to whoever this, I don't know his name, but the guy doing the interview for Fox. He's very good. This was a very good interview, okay? Let's take a look at the next question.
A ton. on sports, a lot of money. Big names that people are very familiar with, big teams, big facilities. What do you say to the people who charge that that's part of sports washing, that you're trying to use all of that to somehow improve or somehow affect your image in the world?
Well, if it's sport washing going to increase my GDP by 1%, then I will continue doing sport washing.
You're okay with that term?
I don't care. I have 1% growth of GDP from sport, and I'm aiming for another 1.5%. Call it whatever you want. We're going to get that 1.5%.
Respect, honestly. I will defend Mohammed bin Salman because, you know, basically what is sports washing? It's basically using, or rather promoting sports to, you know, whitewash your image and so on. And look, the thing is, Mohammed bin Salman, why does he need to do sports washing? Why? Do you know the answer why he has to, you know, rebrand himself? You guys know. Tell me in the comments right now. Why is he doing this? We go back to Khashoggi. We go back to Yemen, to the crimes committed against the people in Yemen, and to the murder of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Okay, ever since then, and remember, this is basically, you know, I mean, what, you know, the United States surely helped Saudi Arabia to you know, to basically dirty up their name with their war on Yemen. So now he needs to rebrand. But here's the thing: sports washing exists everywhere. You have sports washing in Europe, and this is why I'm going to defend him. Because do you think that a Fox News journalist would ever ask someone that in Europe? There is so much corruption in FIFA, in UEFA, with the football teams in Europe, with the Premier League in England. No one gets asked this question in England. But now suddenly, when, you know, Qatar is hosting the World Cup, that was a banger World Cup. I'm sorry, that was one of the best World Cups ever. And then when Saudi Arabia is now bringing in Ronaldo's playing in Saudi Arabia. Dude, Saudi Arabia has its league on the come up. Now suddenly, you know, when these Arab countries are doing well for themselves, now they take issue with sports washing and with, you know, and all this stuff. Go to hell. Please go to hell. Seriously, you would never ask this to an English club owner or you know, European official or someone from FIFA. You would never fucking ask them this. So go to hell. Okay, I think that's really disgusting. And you know, they now all of a sudden they take issue with sports washing just because the, you know, two Arab countries are doing well. You're just jealous. They're just jealous that they got Ronaldo. You know, I mean, easily I mean, most people look at him as the best football player in the world. Okay, for those who disagree, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's say he's top 5. This is not the point. The point is that they were able to get him, and they're jealous in Europe because they can't afford him. That's it. Bottom line. Period. Anything else is rubbish. Actually, as a matter of fact, look at this promo clip that they released. Okay, this is from Ronaldo's football club. Honestly, I found this funny. They got him dressed in traditional Saudi clothes. I mean, look, everything with the sword, with the galabi. It really looks nice. Honestly, I love it. I love it. I love to see this. I mean it. It's really nice. In any case, there he is. There's Ronaldo, right? He looks great. He really does. Now, in any case, just to conclude, you know, Netanyahu, God, I mean, what a troll, what an indecent, malfeasant, ugly troll he is. He is such a troll, right? He cannot stand that China is doing well. He cannot stand that China and Syria are you know, strengthening their ties. Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, is in China today, and he met with Xi Jinping, and he's going to attend the unveiling of the or rather the ceremony for the Asian Games. He cannot stand this. So, you know, America cannot stand this, and Saudi Arabia cannot stand this. They're jealous because they won't get a piece of the pie. And it's really stupid, because if they would just ask nicely, that, you know, China has no problem to work with the United States. China has no problem to work with, even with Israel, right? Which I think is wrong. They should have a problem to work with Israel. But the Chinese don't. They invest a lot in the Haifa port, for example, you know. China has no problem with anyone, neither with Saudi Arabia, nor with Israel, nor with the United States. So you could easily, you know, mold or modify the Belt and Road Initiative to include those countries. But no, they don't want that. They want to control the stuff. They want to control the routes. Otherwise, they're not happy. Why do you think the Americans put so many bases in the Horn of Africa? Why do you think that they are in Somalia, that they are in Djibouti? Why do you think that they are there? Because they want to make sure that they have, you know, guards, watchmen, that they have troops on the most important trade corridor in the world, right? Or which has been for many centuries, which is not only the Middle East, but of course the Suez Canal, right? I mean, there's a bloody war fought over the Suez Canal in 1956, right? Just to underscore how important this is. So they put bases everywhere, and they screw Yemen as well. So Yemen, you know, there's no because Yemen gets support from Iran, they're not okay with that, so they want to crush it and trample on it. You know, make sure that there's no gateway, so to speak, over there and near the Suez Canal or on the Red Sea. It's all about economics. It's all about the trade corridors. This is the future. These are the wars that are being fought right now. Okay, this is what it's really about. And I honestly, you know, just if we look at it as an Arab issue, the fact that, you know, Saudi Arabia this is scandalous. This is so scandalous. I cannot, you know, explain to you or put into words how scandalous this is. This is not going to go down well with anyone. I think even the most ardent supporters of Saudi Arabia will be like, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? You know, everyone knows that they have ties under the table. Everyone knows this. I told you this. I told you when Trump did this Abraham Accords bullshit, right? With, again, the UAE, which is 80% foreigners and isn't really a country. And Bahrain, where everyone is up in arms about the government signing a deal with Israel. When Trump did that, I told you Saudi Arabia is next. I said this to you. Go and watch the videos. I said this to you. Saudi Arabia is next. Saudi Arabia is coming. Go and watch it. Because they've had deals under the table for a long time. And let me perhaps finish on this note. If you want to understand what Saudi Arabia is, and I say this with a very heavy heart, Saudi Arabia is an Arab Israel. That's what it is. The government, at least. Think of it as an Arab version of Israel, which is unfathomable in the first place. But that's what it is politically. It's a shame. It's really a shame because everything was going so well, right? Normalization with ties with Iran. I mean, that was really, really needed, right? And the Chinese did an absolutely splendid job mediating that deal. And then, of course, Saudi Arabia with Syria, Saudi Arabia with Yemen, you know, everything beautiful. But now they have to go and shit in the pot. What an absolute shame. What a shame. Grim Reaper says, Richard wants fair and honest politics. You're damn right I do. You're damn right I do. You're damn right I do. Unfortunately, that's too optimistic. So forget about it. Forget about it. So let's move on. I've got tons of things to cover. Actually, let's have a little laugh. Shall we have a little laugh? This really, really cracked me up. I swear to God, I've never seen something so funny in my life. I've never seen something so funny in my entire life. This is a clip of Emmanuel Macron, the French president, and he's talking about the French ambassador in Niamey, which is Niger's capital. Okay, remember, Niger had a coup in July. And the presidential guard overthrew they took out the president, Bazoum. He's under house arrest. And, you know, these are young men, our generation, who are sick of Niger being controlled by France. Okay, and they said, well, I'll get back to it, but just watch the clip, please. Oh my God.
Quant au Niger, au moment où je vous parle, nous avons un ambassadeur et des membres diplomatiques qui sont pris en otage, littéralement, à l'ambassade de France. Et on empêche de livrer la nourriture. Ils mangent avec des rations militaires. Quant au...
Oh no! Oh no! The tragedy! Oh, il n'y a plus de gastronomie française. Oh, ils mangent des rations militaires. Oh. Poor ambassador. He's literally a hostage. That's what he called him. He said he's a hostage. Right?
Nous avons un ambassadeur et des membres diplomatiques qui sont pris en otage, littéralement.
Pris en otage, littéralement. Non, ils ne sont pas pris en otage. Ferme ta gueule. They're not hostages. Look, man, the ambassador, the French ambassador, was told, we want to speak to you, so you have to come to the foreign ministry. Okay, now this is a summons. Okay, when this happens, usually you're in shit because you're a guest in the country. You have to go. You cannot just like not go. This is nuts. Imagine you're in the kitchen. You go over to someone's house in the kitchen, and then you just like barricade the fucking door and you refuse to come out. You're not a hostage. You are the one who refuses to leave. So he ignored the request for him just to come speak at the foreign ministry, right? Outrageous. Then they said, okay, you're ignoring us, so we want you to leave the country because we don't tolerate this kind of behavior. You have to leave. You have 48 hours to leave calmly. He ignores that as well, and Macron says like, oh yeah, I'm supporting him, and he should ignore that. We don't recognize this junta. Right? We don't recognize this new government. We will only deal with Bazoum. So then he the French ambassador ignores that too. And then the new government in Niger, they put out another statement saying that, look, your visa is canceled. Your diplomatic credentials are also rescinded. So you are not only not a diplomat, you are not a diplomat anymore in Niger. On top of that, your visa is gone, so you don't even have the right to be in this country under any circumstances. Diplomat or tourist, doesn't matter. Your visa is gone. Get out of the country. And the police have orders to arrest you because you are breaking the law. So he goes and hides in the embassy, and I told you that's probably what he's gonna do. He's the only place in Niger that he can hide, right? I mean, besides the military base, but again, the military base is not sovereign, or shall we say, it's not regarded as French soil. The embassy is. So it's the only place he can hide. And now Macron is saying he's a hostage. He's not a fucking hostage. He's a guy who refuses to leave. That's it. He refuses to leave the country. He's not a hostage. A hostage is when you are taken by force. No one took him by force. He's not been arrested. Nothing happened to him, although he could legally be arrested. Just because he is sent as a diplomat, it doesn't mean that the country has to recognize him for a diplomat forever. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you are a host country, you can expel any diplomat from any country, and you don't even need a reason. You don't need a reason. Although here there are more than enough reasons. It's he really asked for it. He really asked for it. I mean, outrageous behavior. Like, even let's say you're a tourist and your visa expires and you refuse to leave the country, and in the United States they probably put you in a cage and deport you, right? But this guy's an ambassador, so he knows the law, he knows what he's doing, he knows the etiquette, he knows the body language, the political language. He knows what every move he makes means, and he just like gives them the finger, like multiple times. He knows exactly what he's done. He asked for this. And I'm really sorry that he's eating military rations, but that doesn't make him a hostage, and that doesn't qualify as, as a factor in categorizing hostages. It just doesn't. You're not a hostage. You are a man, a Frenchman who refuses to leave Africa, and you should get out of the country. Hand yourself in and leave. Go home. Go home to Macron. Just embarrassing, really embarrassing. God damn it. Okay, so let's talk about give me a second. We've got many things here. I wanted to kind of look at the UN General Assembly and go through the hottest moments. Okay, so that's what I wanted to do. Let's proceed. Actually, before I continue, give me a second. Before I continue, I'm just gonna check if we got any super chats or any donations or new members on Patreon. Actually, we've got a donation on PayPal right now. This is from Niku. Thank you very much. Says, thanks for watching mainstream media so that we don't have to. You're welcome. No wonder it makes you tired. Could you please tell us how the fancy scarves you wear are called, or where do I get them? Well, of course. They're called kufias. I'll spell it for you in the chat. And I get them from a shop in Palestine, which is the last place that makes them. And they are absolutely spanking and just really great. Give me a second. I'm just getting you the URL. I think it was hirbawi.ps. That's the website. Give me a second to double check. So hirbawi.ps. Yeah, that's it. That's the website. And they ship worldwide. Europe, United States, Asia, it doesn't matter. They ship everywhere. So that's really good. So please go get yourselves some of them and support their business. Each one of them says made in Palestine, which I love. And that's where I get them from. So I appreciate that you appreciate them, and I hope you you find them well. So let's talk about the prisoner swap. God, this is really, I mean, the thing here is the prisoner swap is not the issue. It's the commentary afterwards, which is really just like wearing me down, you know. But let's go through it. Let's go through it. And by the way, I want to thank you guys, because right now, if I look at the Biden sniffinometer, okay, we are right now currently at 703. 703. So we hit the goal last time. We did it. We are at 703. And guys, let me tell you that, you know, I could not do this without your support. So if you have a few bucks that you can afford to spare, that you want to donate to support my work, or you find my work enjoyable, or you gain something and found it informative, and you want to support me, this is one of the ways to do it. Basically, it's a monthly donation, and you know you can do it in any currency, in any amount, even $5 a month or $2 a month. Anything helps. So the link is patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. And you know, again, I know a lot of people use Patreon to do like deluxe content. I'm not into that. I do everything. All of my work is publicly available for free. And if you are able to support, then thank you very much. And that's basically it. That's the plug. So thank you very much. We're trying to get to 750, right? So we just need 47 more people to join. Then I will unleash on you the new crab dance that we have cooking and simmering on the stove. Okay, so anyone who joins, I will play a crab dance, and the same thing goes for YouTube. If you join as a member on YouTube, I'll play a crab dance as well. And we definitely need one. So I'm expecting and waiting on you guys to rise to the challenge, and I appreciate it very much. Let's talk about the prisoner swap. You guys see this? Right then. So Iran and the United States came to an agreement. Okay, each side released 5 prisoners, and Iran actually, in addition to that, received $6 billion of its own money, right? Which is a fact that seems to escape every single, you know, anti-Iranian moron on cable news. So this is money that was in Korea. You know, basically, this is money that Iran made selling petroleum, and the United States stole it. The United States held it hostage. And this is very funny, because the way that they speak now is that, oh, well, you're rewarding Iran for releasing American hostages. No, no one is rewarding Iran. You should be ashamed to even bring up the money. You know, if I stole $6 billion from someone and hid them away for, you know, several years and then had to give it back, I would never even mention this. How shameless do you have to be to talk about it like as if you're doing Iran a favor? You're not doing them a favor. Shame on you. That's not your money. You stole somebody's money. You stole $6 billion fucking dollars. Anyway, look. So basically, this is what happened. They used Qatar as the point of exchange, and so you had 5 Americans that were released. They're actually, I think, many of them are dual citizens, right? They're both Iranian and American. Out of the 5 that were released, they got on a plane from Tehran to Doha, and then from Qatar, they went to the United States. And then the United States, in exchange, as I said, released the money and also released 5 Iranian prisoners. I think only 2 of them went back to Iran for some reason. I don't know the details of that. It hasn't been confirmed yet. But this goes far beyond that. I want to just show you some clips, some of the commentary surrounding this, and how mind-bogglingly dumb and absurd it is. It's so bad. It's really, really bad. Okay, take a look at this clip, for example. This is from Fox News. Is it from Fox? It's from... yes, the first one is. Here we go.
First of all, why do you think it happened this way?
Well, I think because the Biden administration is absolutely desperate to appease Iran. I mean, that's the only thing we can...
Oh, yeah. They They want to appease Iran so much that they refuse to lift sanctions on Iran that Trump put in place. Total appeasement. Yeah, they're just fawning over the Ayatollah. They won't rejoin the nuclear deal. Again, they are appeasing the mullahs. You goddamn idiot.
Can conclude, Harris, I mean, we should get clear on this. A lot of the same people who are running the Biden foreign policy also ran Obama's foreign policy, and they want a deal with Iran. They're willing to do just about anything.
No, they don't. They don't. Man, I'm one of the only people covering the nuclear deal on the ground, and I'm telling you, they don't want a deal. It's dead. It's actually dead. I have a whole playlist of my coverage. And yes, for a small amount of time, just a few months, nothing more, there were negotiations. And then, the Ukraine war started and the Americans, they just threw the whole thing away. I mean, it's not like this just happened. Trump threw it away. Trump is the one who destroyed the nuclear deal, right? Because in his opinion, meaning Israel's opinion, which, Israel controlled a lot of his foreign policy. And that's why he gave them this concession, because Israel wanted it. In Israel's opinion, it was not strong enough because apparently, it's not enough to make sure Iran has more nuclear inspectors than any country on earth, and is like, I mean, if you're worried about a nuclear weapon, I can guarantee you, Iran is the last place on earth that will have a nuclear weapon. The last place on earth. There is just no way around it. Anyway, I'll let the moron talk.
And here we have them giving away prisoners, giving them $6 billion. I mean, come on.
No, returning $6 billion stolen dollars.
So, but why are they so desperate to do a deal with Iran? I have to think that when you're that desperate and you give away everything, and look, we all want our Americans home, no matter where they are in the globe. But when you do this deal with literally the devil, there's got to be something else in it that maybe we don't know. What is it?
Well, I just think.
Wow. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Jesus Christ.
I think it's a desperation to appease this nation, to get back into some kind of a nuclear agreement with them, just like the Obama administration did. I think it's religion to them, Harris. I think that the Obama team thought that their terrible deal with Iran was the best thing ever. Joe Biden desperately wants to resurrect it, get back into it, and they're willing.
This has nothing to do with the nuclear deal. Why do they keep bringing this up? Dude, this is money from oil and gas sales that Iran did with South Korea. And 5 American prisoners and 5 Iranian prisoners that have nothing to do with nuclear physics, with nuclear weapons, with any weapons, with anything. What does this have to do with that? This has nothing to do with the nuclear deal. You are so just illiterate and
willing to do everything they can to try to entice Iran. And if that means giving them $6 billion, if that means giving them prisoners, they're here for it. Meanwhile, it's making us less safe. It's making the region less stable. It's a bad deal.
Don't worry, the region will be fine without you. I promise.
Trump put out a Truth Social basically saying, look, I got, dozens of these hostages released from North Korea. I actually remember being at the White House when that happened. And there was no exchange of billions and billions of dollars. And the reality is.
Yeah, maybe because there wasn't any, anything stolen to give back. But OK.
This is when we're dealing with Iran. Iran now feels so empowered that they went to the International Atomic Energy Agency and now is kicking out.
Jesus Christ Almighty, please help us. Why do you keep bringing up nuclear physics? What is wrong with you? This is nothing to... Oh, my God. Help us, please. Listen to this. She's now an expert on the IAEA. Listen.
Atomic Energy Agency and now is kicking out more inspectors out of there. So the mere fact is we know exactly the plan of the Iranian regime, which is that of making...
Regime. Got to have that keyword. These events are completely unlinked. They're unlinked. The reason Iran kicked out some nuclear inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is based in Vienna. The reason Iran did that is because at the Board of Governors meeting, which is an annual meeting that they have on September 14th, they put out a statement which is highly politicized. And, they're basically accusing Iran of enriching uranium up to 83.7%. Here's the British British commentary on that statement, right? So they basically said that Iran has 83.7% enriched uranium, which is a complete lie. They found traces of 83.7% uranium because Iran was enriching up to 60% uranium. So when you enrich up to, in this case, 60%, it's normal that you have trace particles that are a bit higher than that. And the whole reason Iran has uranium enriched to this level in the first place is because the United States left the nuclear deal. In the goddamn deal, if you would actually read it, but I think these people are too illiterate to do that. In the deal, it literally says if the United States leaves the agreement and puts sanctions on Iran, Iran does not have to abide by the deal. Of course it says that, because in any contract in the world, whether you are trading stones or weapons or whatever the hell it is, if the other side doesn't abide by the agreement, why do you have to abide by the agreement? It doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. There is no agreement when one side breaks it. And the thing is, Iran didn't do a thing for a whole year. They did not change anything. They just kept going with the deal like it was, So again, just going back to how this commentary is so distorted. Iran kicked out these inspectors because of the Board of Governors statement. These events are isolated. They have nothing to do in the world with this exchange of prisoners. Nothing. Making
sure that they become a nuclear country where they would not.
They're not a nuclear country.
Rely on basically where they're going to be able to fund terrorist activity, for example.
What does that have to do with the IAEA and with the prisoner swap? Like, they don't know how to say, they don't know what they're talking about. This is the problem. They don't know what they're talking about. They keep jumping between topics that have nothing to do with each other. It's so embarrassing.
Example for Hezbollah. So to say that.
Hezbollah. Yeah. They have everything. That's why, it's because of Hezbollah. Nasrallah just picked up the phone and said, kick out those IAEA inspectors after they give you the 6. God, it's such a salad. It's such an absolute salad. I feel actual pain, physical pain for people that consume this news. My heart bleeds for you. My heart bleeds. It's so bad. Truly. This is the statement that the IAEA put out, okay? So it was, this is after Iran had kicked out the inspectors, so two days after the statement had come out. And this is Grossi who wrote this, the Director General. And, he said that several agency inspectors who work under the NPT, but again, the NPT is a separate thing from the nuclear deal. The NPT is the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is an international treaty that is monitored by the UN using the IAEA, and it's just about non-proliferation, as the title says. Not spreading nuclear weapons. It's separate from the nuclear deal. So Iran just didn't like that the Board of Governors is being politicized, because this is what the United States and Britain do. They always go and they hijack things like the OPCW or the IAEA, and they use them as vehicles against whatever country they don't like. Again, Iran has literal cameras filming 24 hours a day in these nuclear facilities. There are special seals that are installed by the inspectors themselves that if you tampered with them in any way would immediately be evident. And so everything that you can think of in the world to make sure Iran does not have nuclear weapons, it has been done. And yet they keep bringing this subject up. It's so repetitive and insufferable. Truly insufferable. And when this clown over here, she's talking about funding terrorism, Hezbollah. This is the reason Trump withdrew from the deal, because Israel wants Iran to have his balls cut off. That's what it is about. Israel wants to cut Iran's nuts off. They want Iran neutered, okay? Because Iran it's not about nuclear weapons. Iran is supporting the resistance axis. So that means Syria, that means Yemen, that means Hezbollah, that means the PMU in Iraq, that means Palestinians. So everyone who is sick of Israel, killing them, occupying their land, everyone who's sick of the Americans doing the same thing, and who actually resist, and they want to cut their balls off. That's what it's about. So they want to make sure that Iran cannot do anything. And this is out of the question. This is ridiculous. And they also want to cripple Iran's ballistic missile program. I mean, it's too late. I'm sorry. Number one, it's too late. And number two, nothing to do with nuclear weapons. But that's what Israel wanted. That's what Israel wants. if they have a nuclear deal, it's not going to be about anything to do with nuclear weapons. It's about crippling resistance against Israeli Zionism and American imperialism. That's what it's about. This is the truth. You know, that's what they mean when they say funding terrorism. It's not terrorism. You're the terrorist. You are. Especially your news program. Jesus Christ. This is actual terrorism against my ears. So that's really about it. That's really the gist of it. This is such a simple transaction. Well, simple. I mean, the $6 billion is really the highlight of the crime here. And how they speak about it with such, you know, a confidence, like, oh, you gave Iran's. No, you didn't give Iran $6 billion. You stole it and returned it. That's what it is. And the thing is, you need to understand that Iran didn't even get the money back. Iran does not get the money back. You know what happens? As I mentioned, Qatar is being used as the hub for this prisoner swap, right? It's the exchange point. The money, the $6 billion, have been sent from a bank account in Korea. Like, remember, what is South Korea? An American base, just like Germany, just like Japan. It's a giant American base. The Americans control it. That's why the money was frozen in the first place, because America can pressure Korea to do those things. So now the money is no longer in Korea. It's in Qatar, in a bank account in Qatar that only they control. So Iran does not control this bank account, and the United States is really the one in charge. The United States will only give this money to Iran for quote-unquote humanitarian purposes, whatever that is. Again, define humanitarian, because when we talk about Syria, for example, with these Caesar Act sanctions, apparently toothpaste is you know, you can build a bomb with toothpaste, and so it's banned. You know, they call these dual-use things. So Jesus Christ, you know, good luck getting past whatever the hell the United States means when they say humanitarian. Good luck to you. But that's really the gist of it. The money is not in Iran's hands. It's in Qatar, which, again, what is Qatar? Take a guess. I just mentioned what South Korea and Japan and Germany are. Qatar is also among this group of American bases. It's a giant American base. And remember, when the Americans left Afghanistan, where did they run to when they left Afghanistan? They went to Qatar because they control it. Okay? It's another, you know, it's another kingdom created by the West, run by the West. And so this money is really still in America's hands. That's what it's about. Okay? And I think even that is scandalous. That is scandalous. You know, when you steal this money, you should just give it back quietly and shut your mouth. You know, look at Ted Cruz. God, forgive me for what I'm about to make you listen to.
Got to say now, the way the Biden administration is conducting this war is utterly incoherent. Right now, Joe Biden is asking for $24 billion to go to Ukraine to fight the war, but simultaneously, they're announcing that they sent $16 billion to Iran. Iran is using that money to make drones, and those drones are going to Russia, and the Russians are using them to kill Ukrainians.
Well, hold on. I thought those drones are crap, and oh, ha ha ha, Iran can't make drones. Now you're complaining about them?
So the Biden administration is funding both sides of the war.
It's not $16 billion.
Oh yeah, America is totally funding both sides of the war. What kind of garbage is this? Jesus Christ. This man is a senator. This man is a senator in the United States. This man. The Zodiac Killer.
It's $6 billion, and it's Iranian funds. It's Iranian funds that were in South Korea, which Iran made that money when they got waivers from the Trump administration to sell oil and gas. We saw similar versions of these kind of funds being used, whether it was in India, whether it was in Japan, under the Trump administration. But I'm confused about how sanctions with Putin caused a war with Ukraine. At the same time, it's Republicans in the House who are concerned about sending more aid to Ukraine. How do you really thread the needle there between the two? If you don't agree with what the Biden administration is doing, do you agree with your House Republicans?
So let me break down what you said, because there were a number of things you said that were incorrect. Number one, you're right that what they announced this week was $6 billion in a hostage exchange for 5 hostages, but that follows 2 weeks after they released $10 billion that came from Iraq to Iran. So in total, it's $16 billion that in the last couple of weeks they have flowed into the Ayatollah's coffers. And
you gave back Iran its own money. You gave back $6 billion that belonged to Iran, that were never yours to take, use, do with anything. And the 10 billion were unpaid bills because Iran was supplying Iraq with gas, their neighbors, and the United States was blocking Iraq from paying because they invaded Iraq and, you know, the sanctions they put on Iran. And so the bill just ran up. So in the end, Iraq owed Iran $10 billion. And now the United States finally allowed Iraq to pay the bill. What? Do you see how ridiculous this is? Like, he makes it sound like Biden went to the Treasury and he just, you know, he just grabbed $16 billion of American money and gave it to Iran. No, this money has always been Iran's, and you stood in the fucking way and stole it. Period.
And what this is a part of is essentially the Biden's administration to re-enter an Iran nuclear deal. I think this is a down payment.
Oh my God, why do they keep bringing this up? Why? I'm going to go nuts.
On that nuclear deal. And let's be clear, I don't care if this was Iran's money or not. The Ayatollah comment.
Yes, I can see that, my good sir. I can see you do not care whether it was Iran's money or not. Yeah, he acts like it's, you know, it's an afterthought. It's just whatever, a side issue. It doesn't matter whose money it is, okay?
Is the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world, is responsible.
There we go. There we go. That's the catchphrase. Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism in the world. I swear to God, I posted on Twitter, like I cut these things together, a compilation of people saying this phrase, the exact wording, exact quote, Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. This is something someone at the CIA wrote down on their desk, and they gave it to the news organizations, and now everyone repeats it, right? Iraq is weapons of mass destruction. Iran, blah, blah, blah. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's complete
for
rubbish.
Murdering hundreds of Americans, hundreds of our allies.
You shouldn't have gone to somebody else's house then. You shouldn't be in Iraq or Syria. Okay, I mean, this is...
In the world is responsible for murdering hundreds of Americans, hundreds of our allies, and he routinely leads mobs in chanting death to America and death to Israel, and it is a bizarre...
Yeah, see, that's the difference, is that they only say death to America, whereas America actually inflicts death on Iran. That's the difference. They actually kill people with sanctions, like literally physically kill them.
Political obsession of the Biden White House to want to send him tens of billions of dollars. It is a 100% certainty. This money that they're sending to Iran will be used to fund terrorism, to kill Americans.
The money is still controlled by America. It's just in Qatar now. What part of this does he not understand?
Will die. Not only that, by paying ransom, they're effectively setting a bounty of $3 billion a person on Americans. We will see future American hostages from Iran and from other nations because of this deal. But when it comes to Ukraine, it's also utterly incoherent because this money is going to drones that Iran is producing, and Iran is the #1 weapons supplier to Russia. So the Biden administration is funding the drones that are being used to kill Ukrainian soldiers and Ukrainian citizens.
The funds are being used for humanitarian aid, Senator. I'm going to give it over to Joe, but...
I have nothing further to say. They have drained me of life, energy, zeal, of everything good in this world. I have been robbed. They have drained me. I'm just done. I'm done. I cannot anymore with these people. I'm done. Really. Jesus Christ. You know, it's one thing. It's one thing watching, you know, Biden basically just continue Trump policies. That's exactly what he's doing. But it's another watching, you know, Republicans talk about it. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like anything that is remotely good for Iran or China. Like, they are so ready to just go to war. You know, the Republicans, they like to give you this impression, you know, conservatives in the United States, they like to pretend that they're anti-war. And, you know, they're against NATO expansion, all this stuff. But as soon as you bring up China, oh my God, they are ready to drop nuclear weapons on it. You know, you bring up Iran, saber rattling, let's go. They're sick. They are sick. They've been infected. They are like the war machine. As the war machine, you know, is violent, is cruel, is crazed, is hell-bent on war, hates other countries. They're part of the war machine. It's just that instead of Russia, it's Iran and China. I cannot stand this. I cannot stand this level of ignorance. This is another level of ignorance. I mean, you know, if you don't like Hezbollah, I really don't care. That has nothing to do with a prisoner swap. A prisoner swap is a prisoner swap, nothing more. And speaking of which, the Biden administration, they've done several prisoner swaps already, right? You remember they got Brittany Garner freed? So she was in Russia. I think they gave her 11 years because she had hash oil or something with her. You know, they also did before that. So the first prisoner swap, so Brittany Garner was with Victor Bout in exchange for Victor Bout, and then Trevor Reed, who's a Marine, in exchange for Yaroshenko, right? So I interviewed Yaroshenko as soon as he was freed. So he was the first Russian to be exchanged in a prisoner swap by the Biden administration. Go watch the interview. That, you know, he funny thing with him is that he was not extradited like from Liberia to the US, which they could have easily done because they you know, they have extradition treaties. They just kidnapped him. The DEA kidnapped him, tortured him, and then rendered him to the United States. And then, you know, they put him in prison for over a decade on you know, saying that he wanted to bring cocaine to the United States, and they had a recording of something. He couldn't even speak English, and they pinned it on him. You know, I think there are other reasons, like, you know, they had other motives for putting him in prison, which are still, you know, which doesn't make it okay one bit. This man was kidnapped. This man was illegally kidnapped, tortured, you know, treated like dirt by a foreign country. And I think that is absolutely disgusting. You know, he'd never been to the United States, had no intention of going there, and they kidnapped him and ruined his, you know, took away many years of his life. So go watch the interview because it's very important. And you know, I'm just telling you this because this is not the first prisoner swap that we've seen. It just so happens to be that it's with Iran this time, right? When they did the first two, they got Trevor Reed and they got Brittany Garner. I didn't hear anyone complaining this much. Those are good things. These are good things. This is when you have a prisoner swap. This means there's a level of diplomacy going on. And keep in mind, the first two with Russia happened while the Ukraine war was taking place. So despite the Ukraine war, the Russians and Americans were still talking, and they still got, you know, their countrymen freed. I think that's marvelous. I think that's good. That's how it should always be. You know, would be better if they spoke more than killing each other. Would be better for everyone. It would be better for everyone if these countries entered in dialogue and spoke more to one another rather than killing each other or using Ukraine, right, to kill Russians. I mean, it's really using Ukrainians to kill Russians. I mean, it's really sad. It's really sad, honestly. It should be the other way around. You should have diplomacy as the norm, and, you know, bits of violence as the one-off thing, right? Not the other way around, where it's always violence, it's always war, it's always sanctions, and then sometimes a little bit of diplomacy. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, you know? And the thing is, it's not that the Russians don't want the diplomacy. They're very open to it. It's that the West don't want diplomacy. That's a fact. I'll show it to you right now with this video from Stoltenberg, okay? Okay, give me a second to Here's the website, by the way, if you want to buy those scarves that one of you asked me about. The website, hirbawi.ps. So that's HIRBAWI.ps. Okay? there's the spelling, herbawi.ps. So they're the last shop in Palestine that make these kufias, the scarves. They're excellent, and they ship worldwide, and I'm more than happy to promote them. And they're really great. They're really great. I mean, the quality is sublime. It's absolutely stupendous. Let me tell you, we've got a couple of people who just joined on Patreon. Thank you very much, Partovi. I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you, Partovi. And we've also got Carola. Thank you, Carola and Partovi. I appreciate it very much. So now we should be at 705, I believe. So we are 45 members away from hitting the goal. Guys, again, I need to ask you for a favor. I need to ask for your help because, I'm doing this on my own. You guys are the only way that I can continue to do my work. I depend on you. There are no sponsors or corporate sponsors or anything like that. It's only you. And I would be very grateful if you would please consider donating £1 a month or €1 a month or €2 a month. You can do any currency you like, any amount you like, and stop whenever you like. And I'm just trying to hit 750. So now we're at 705. We need 45 new members. I think we can do it. We've got hundreds of people watching. I'm more than confident that there are 45 people among you who can find a buck or two if the situation and the conditions permit to please support my work. I'd really be most grateful. In any case, I owe Partovi and Carola a crab dance to thank them for joining. So everybody, give them a round of applause, show them some love, and let's go.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you. والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China. And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
We got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh!
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why you text Sanders? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
I love it. I love it. Again, thank you guys so much, and I'm getting the next thing ready for you, and I'm confident that more people are going to join, so we'll have more crab dances to play as we get more members. And of course, if you can join on YouTube and unlock emojis, then all the merrier. And I'm just going to spam the chat with all these emojis here. Hold on, give me a second. There we go. So thank you for cooking those up, Claudia. And give me a second over here. I'm just fetching this video for you because I told you about Stoltenberg. So basically, right here we go. Okay, so I mean, this is really, how can I introduce such a bombshell? If you had any doubt in your mind that the war in Ukraine has nothing to do with NATO, right? If you think that, oh, this is just because Putin, you know, he wants to bring back the Soviet Empire or some rubbish, absolute rubbish like this, then I just want to play you a clip. This is the Secretary General of NATO himself, Stoltenberg himself, straight from the horse's mouth. Listen, just listen.
The background was that President Putin declared in the autumn of 2021, and he actually sent a draft treaty that he wanted NATO to sign, to promise no more NATO enlargement. That was what he sent us. And that was a precondition for not invade Ukraine. Of course, we didn't sign that.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
The opposite happened. He wanted us to sign a promise never to enlarge NATO. He wanted us to remove our military infrastructure in all allies that have joined NATO since 1997, meaning half of NATO, all the Central and Eastern Europe. We should remove NATO from that part of our alliance. Introducing some...
Yeah, I wonder what is in Eastern Europe. What possibly borders Eastern Europe? Why on earth would he want that?
Kind of E and B or second-class membership. We rejected that. So he went to war to prevent NATO, more NATO close to his borders. He has got the exact opposite.
Okay, so basically he admits that everything we have been saying is correct. This whole war is about NATO enlargement. This whole war is about encircling Russia, right? What Putin, what the Russians were asking of NATO was that if, for example, you have French NATO troops, that you don't bring these French NATO troops or American NATO troops or British NATO troops and put them in an Eastern European country on Russia's border. Okay, so they weren't saying like, oh, well, you should just remove Poland from NATO because that's impossible. They were just saying, we only want to see Polish troops in Poland on our border. We don't want to see American troops on our border who are in Poland under the guise of NATO. Do you understand? Which is a fair request, right? I'm pretty sure the United States would also not want to see Mexico, for example, or Canada in a military alliance with China or with Russia, and then having Russian and Chinese troops on America's border. America cannot even tolerate refugees that it created on its border, never mind Russian or Chinese troops. So every single thing that we have been saying, he just confirmed. Thank you so much. I actually love him for this. I really do. What a gentleman. What a class act. Thank you. You just told us that this whole war is your fault. You don't want to reduce NATO. You don't want to show the Russians that you have any goodwill, right? No. You insist on keeping foreign troops on Russia's borders, and you insisted on ignoring their requests for diplomatic settlement, and you caused the war. You caused the war. Thank you. Yes, thank you. You have just confirmed everything that we already knew, but it's still nice to hear it from your mouth, especially yours, because apparently when you say these things like, oh, this war is because of NATO encircling Russia, apparently this is Russian propaganda, right? This is actually what so-called academics look for when they're trying to class and categorize Russian propaganda. Like, do they blame NATO? Yes, of course we blame NATO. What else? We're talking about Teletubbies here, about McDonald's. We're talking about NATO. NATO. The Russians, when they sent these documents for a new security architecture, this is called diplomacy. You exchange and documents. You send requests. You make requests. You ask things. You try to negotiate. It's called diplomacy. And they gave them the finger. They gave Russia the finger. You started the war. This war started a long time ago. It's not just now, you know, in autumn and winter 2021 when Russia was sending these draft agreements. No, it's a long time before that. I told you that since the 1990s, right, at the very beginning of the 90s when you had the 2+4 negotiations, so basically Russia, US, UK, France, talking about East and West Germany reuniting, and becoming one Germany again. The Russians made it very clear that they don't want NATO to expand because, you know, half the reason that they stood in Germany for 50 years is not only to make sure the Nazis don't come back and Germany can never recover and do what it did, which is kill 27 million Russians, but they also didn't want NATO to expand any further, right? Now, when we're talking about the end of the Cold War, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union, NATO does not have a purpose anymore. And you can see that Russia was talking about the stuff from 1997 and onwards. Okay? George Bush added several countries to NATO as well, right? Absolutely provocative. So provocative. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. When you are expanding a military alliance on Russia's borders, this is provocative. And the reverse would be true. If Russia were expanding a military alliance on America's borders, this is provocative. You are asking for a war. You are asking for a war. Anyone who says otherwise should never speak about politics or geopolitics or about military matters or international affairs ever again in their lives. Never, ever, ever, ever. This is provocative. Period. 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 It doesn't matter if Putin is the president or Mickey Mouse is the president. You are provoking them. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? And it's not even legitimate. It's not even legitimate. It's not like, oh, the Soviet Union still exists, have to contain communism. What communism? What Soviet Union? It's gone. It's gone. Goodbye. Gone. What is the reason for this? It's just militarism. It's just, gung-ho. It's just war hawks. That's it. Period. It's nothing but imperialism. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Nothing but imperialism. That's it.
The background was that President Putin declared in the autumn of 2021, and he actually sent a draft treaty that he wanted NATO to sign to promise no more NATO enlargement. That was what he sent us.
Yeah, what's so scandalous about this? He acts like, he sent him, Putin went to dinner and then sent him the bill or something. He's so offended. Like, that's what he sent us. Yes, absolutely. You should be happy that he sent that instead of a rocket or a cruise missile. You should be happy that he actually tried diplomacy first. Like, why are you so proud of this? You're literally admitting I am an asshole and I refused to talk, so I basically provoked a war. Well done. Congratulations. Good job. Of course, he doesn't have to go fight it or send his sons to go fight it. He gets to dress up in his fancy little suits and walk around acting like he's some hot shot. He's really just a salesman for weapons companies. That's it. Nothing more. He's a petty little weapons salesman. Let me talk about Canada. Actually, no, let's do the UN first. Let's do the UN. This is too spicy. I've been waiting all week for the UNGA to wrap up because, obviously you've got hundreds of countries in the UN and they all send their leaders to speak. We've got a donation from Oscar. Oscar says, donate. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So everybody, please heed Oscar's advice and donate. We've got one here from... this from Gritty Image. Says, I've been watching you for long enough now. Time to support. Thank you very much. Says, hashtag fund it or lose it. Your thorough, detailed, and backed up videos make you one of the more of the best indie journalists I've seen. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. From a guy also called Richard. Well, from Jamie. I got that mixed up. But thank you, Jamie. I'm very grateful, and your kind words. I appreciate them very much. Thank you. And happy you finally made the decision to support. And thank you for watching. Again, guys, even if you're just liking the video or commenting or sharing the videos, posting them on social media, it's a form of support. But I'm very grateful. Thank you, James. And we've got another one here from Mehdi. It says, hello from Malaysia. Hello to Malaysia. Again, guys, please tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. Because when I first asked you, I don't think all of you were here. So please tell me in the chat, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Odyssey, on Rockfin, wherever you're watching. Please tell me what country you're in and where you're watching from. So again, thank you very much, guys. You're very kind, and I appreciate the donations. So right now, again, I'm gonna pull up the screen here. I think give me a second. Claudia updated the Biden sniffinometer, as I like to call it. Give me a second. Right, so we were at 703, and now, ladies and gentlemen, I unveil to you 705. Magnificent, magnificent. Again, I'm trying to get to 750, so we are 45. There we go. We've got Cornelia who just joined, so we're at 706. Thank you, Cornelia. Guess what comes next? a crab dance, of course. Everybody, please give Cornelia a round of applause and thank her for her support. And we are now at 706. We're trying to get to 750. So I just need 44 more of you to join on Patreon. And again, I know we've got hundreds of people watching. So I hope that some of you, I hope that 44 of you can donate $1 a month or £1 a month and join as a member on Patreon, or even on YouTube. Actually, on YouTube, you will get emojis. These class emojis that Claudia put together. Hold on, let me spam them in the chat real quick so you know what I'm talking about. And your name will be highlighted in green, so that's cool. Danielle says, love you from Uganda. Thank you very much. Shout out to Uganda. We've got people watching from Australia, from London, from Oregon, from Sweden, Senegal, Utah, Vienna, India, Portugal, from Krakow, from Canada, Ontario, California, Cyprus, Panama, Nebraska. Beautiful, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. From Rwanda. This is great. This is great. So thank you guys very much. France, North Korea. Anyway, I owe Cornelia a crab dance, so let's go.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, Gary, who just joined as well. And thank you, Bash, for basically almost doubling your pledge on Patreon. I appreciate that very, very much. You guys are splendid and spectacular. And we've got another one. I think we're at 707 now. So that's really good. That's really good. Thank you guys very, very much. So we should, we're on track to hit the goal. We need 43 more people. And I'm sure some of you are joining right now. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you for supporting independent media. Let me continue with the UN General Assembly and talk about that. This was really funny. This was really funny. There's one clip I need to get. Just give me a second, because I pieced together the best parts of the General Assembly, and there's something with Netanyahu that I already showed you, but I'm going to play it again just so you kind of understand what was going on, and we'll talk about the Israelis again in a second. Just a sec. Okay, perfect. So you guys can see that? All right. By the way, these clips, they're all from In Context. So that's my media outlet. And you can see all of these clips, from the UN being posted that I'm about to play to you. Every single clip that I've played so far in the show has been from In Context. All of them, right? So definitely go and follow and support it if you can. And there you go. So I pieced together the best bits of the United Nations General Assembly, which just took place in New York at the UN headquarters. And I'm just going to start with the funniest one. This is seriously the funniest thing I've seen at the UN in a while. So the president of Iran was giving his speech, right? President Raisi. He was giving a speech, and this Israeli envoy So the Israeli ambassador to the UN thought it would be a funny idea to hold up a poster while Raisi is speaking, and just look what happened.
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on the terrorists. What is your idea? You know how many times they raise flags against Russia when Ukraine is here? So you need to talk shit.
Oh God, that's so funny. Do you know how many times there is Russia flag when Ukraine's speaking? No, you screwed up. You screwed up. He looked so desperate. Also, he was like this. He's like some child, you know. Look, I did my homework. Look. What an absolute clown. This backfired so spectacularly. This is so funny, you know, because the Israelis think they're like, you know, they're above everybody, the chosen people, right? So can't touch them. No. Just one of the best things I've ever seen, right? So remember, the UN is like, think of it like an embassy. You know, the whatever country it's in, whatever headquarters, whether we're talking about New York, Geneva, Vienna, Nairobi, police cannot go inside. So the UN have their own police, okay? And because it's actually, I mean, because the largest one is in New York, and they founded it in New York, the uniforms look like the NYPD. They look similar to the NYPD's, but make no mistake, it's a completely separate entity. So he's basically being detained by them, and the Israelis then claim that he was never detained. No, I'm pretty sure that you were being detained. Like, dude, they took you out. You got kicked out of the General Assembly. You got kicked out like a spoiled child, and grabbed and escorted out like an idiot. And I love what he's writing on the thing. He's showing a photo of Mahsa Amini, which, you know, in the West, they're so sure that, you know, she was the morality police in Iran, beat her to death. What an absolute load of rubbish. Every single piece of CCTV footage says otherwise. The coroner's report, the medical examiner say otherwise. But of course, nothing is ever good enough. You know, it's always Iran bad, Iran evil. Anything that happens is Iran's fault, etc., etc. And he says Iranian women deserve freedom now. Yes, I agree. Freedom from Israel and U.S. sanctions. They definitely do. But those women don't count. They don't matter, right? So they only care about Mahsa Amini because they can use her as a symbol to attack Iran with, right? They're so pathetic. They're really so pathetic. They're so pathetic. I thought that's the best moment of the UN, honestly. This one made my day. Made my day. This made my day. What a clown. What an absolute clown of a clown. So, on to the next clip. On to the next clip. What do we have here? We have Netanyahu, you know, outlining his plan for a new Middle East. So some fuck from Ukraine, right? And Poland or Russia, wherever he comes from, he has a plan for the Middle East. Wow, how generous of you. Thank you so much for blessing us, Your Grace. And so he basically wants to destroy China's Belt and Road Initiative, China's New Silk Road, by making sure that Israel gets a piece of the pie. And of course, he wants Saudi Arabia and the United States to help him, who are more than happy to, because the United States hates China. The United States sees China as competition, right? They're truly capitalist, the United States, right? Meaning no competition, right? They act like they want competition, but when you have competition, they call it a threat. So they want monopoly. They want to destroy China, whether it's tech, whether their phones, you know, whether we're talking about their phones or their apps or their whatever it is, their industry, they're going to just destroy it. And the New Silk Road is one of their targets. So, you know, he thinks that they're going to completely subvert the Silk Road and undercut them by running an economic corridor through the Emirates, through Saudi Arabia, Jordan, then Israel, and onto Europe, right? Because Israel is stealing, or wanted to steal, Lebanon's gas until Hezbollah told them to back the hell off. And then they settled it with the American envoy. So, you know, but by that time, Ursula von der Leyen from the EU, she was calling Israel a gas partner. Remember, because Russia's been cut off, so now the EU needs to find gas, so they look to Israel. So Israel wants this corridor not only for gas, but also for goods to flow through Haifa port, which the Chinese, by the way, have invested in heavily, but that's another matter. So they want to be a hub, right? And make no mistake, Egypt is going to lose out, by the way, with all of this, because the new Silk Road, the maritime path, goes through the Suez Canal. Of course, everything goes through the Suez Canal, everything that matters, right? And he acts like, oh, Israel is good with Egypt and so on. Actually, no one in Egypt likes Israel. Literally nobody, except the people at the top who, are too coward to annul the agreement and so on. But make no mistake that right now things in Egypt are getting hot. So in any case, why am I playing you this clip? Listen to how people clap at the end, okay?
To show a great blessing, the blessing of a new Middle East between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and our other neighbors. We will not only bring down barriers between Israel and our neighbors, we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, to Europe. This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change, another pivot of history.
There's literally no one in the room. Look when he's speaking. There's no one in the room.
And best appreciate the blessing of peace. Now there are many hurdles on the path to peace.
The Israeli delegation, they're like trying to clap the crap out of their own hands, just so you hear it on the mic.
But I'm committed to doing everything
God, what a sad sight. Oh my goodness.
To forge a better future for Israel and all of our peoples, all the peoples in our region. 2 days ago.
God, it's almost as bad as what I'm about to show you next, although not as bad, because this one really takes the cake. So Zelensky was giving a speech at the UN, right? Where he said that Russia should be removed from the Security Council. Boy, go and sit down. Go and sit down, boy. You errand boy. Sit down. Okay? Russia should be removed. Russia's a founding member of the UN, you clown. In any case, back then, of course, we're talking about the Soviet Union, which included Ukraine, but now everything Soviet is only Russian and has to be defaced. They're basically destroying their own history. In any case, on Ukrainian TV, they played Zelensky's speech, and then to make it look like there were lots of people watching his speech, to make it appear that the General Assembly was packed, right? Because they're fawning over Zelensky. They edited the footage. And by accident, they left in a part where Zelensky was in the crowd, in his seat, right, where the Ukrainian delegation is. So apparently Zelensky was watching himself speak at the UN General Assembly. Oh my God. Look, watch 14 seconds what happens.
Не розгортати цю зброю, не розповсюджувати, не допускати погрози нею, не допускати тренування для того, щоб забезпечити ядерне роззброєння. І це хороша стратегія. Але вона не повинна...
Look, it's him! Zelensky is watching his own speech. Oh, dear mother of God, what have you done? How could you screw this up so royally? Why are you so desperate? You don't have to show the crowd. You could just show Zelensky, right? Just show Zelensky. You don't have to humiliate yourself like this. Oh my God, how you have been found out. Oh my goodness.
Хороша стратегія. Але вона не повинна бути єдиною стратегією для того, щоб убезпечити світ від війни, від останньої війни. Україна віддала третій за потужністю ядерний арсенал. Не розгортати...
Zelensky, stop it. Stop. Oh my God. He really actually needs to fire everyone who works there. This is game over. Especially after he banned all the other TV networks and media, right? So there's only like one channel left in Ukraine. The thought police. Oh my goodness. They've really screwed this up for you, my dear boy, haven't they? Oh no. Why did they have to pick this? Like the UN General Assembly takes place over several days. You have hundreds of countries that 196 that are UN members. So we're talking about over 100 leaders that come to speak. This takes days for everyone to speak. It started like 4 days ago, and Netanyahu only spoke today, right? We were only waiting for Netanyahu. But just to give an example, right? They could have just waited and cut something from any of these goddamn speeches that does not show the Ukrainian delegation. No, let's put it in. Yallah. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is just scandalous. An absolute scandal within a scandal. Also, when Netanyahu was speaking outside the at the UN, outside the building in New York, they had a truck going to protest against Netanyahu. Take a look. It's Pinocchio. Defend Israel's democracy. And then when I saw that, I realized, oh, it's actually just Israelis who want like a less. They just want to keep living on Palestinian land and to keep killing Palestinians, but with someone else who's not called Netanyahu in charge. Wow, great. That is really so democratic, you know. They have a democracy. They certainly do for themselves, right? The white European Jews who run Israel. Every single Israeli prime minister, they come from Eastern Europe. They themselves were either born there or their parents or the grandparents. So they're obviously not from there. Palestinians, even those with citizenship, they're treated like, 50th class citizens, 60th, 70th class citizens. And of course, the majority of the population who are Palestinian, obviously, in Palestine, are treated like non-citizens, like scum, less than human. Because Israel is apartheid. Israel is a colony. It's a European colony, and so it behaves like a colony. Here's the Palestinian president, Abbas, when he was speaking. The Israelis walked out, right?
أكثر من 600 جثمان محجوزة عندهم لماذا لا أدري على مسمع ومرأى العالم ودون أي رادع أو عقاب أو مساءلة لا بل.
Maybe one of them was holding up another Mahsa Amini sign and they got escorted out. Oh no, it's funny that they walk out because you know damn well that as soon as the speech is over, they're just going to watch it on replay because they have to, right? The Israelis, they in order to run the occupation, they have to spy on everyone and watch what everyone is saying and etc. So they'll of course be listening to it so they can react. God, so corny, just so corny, really. Let me play you something that's actually good. This is Lula, president of Brazil. Look at what he had to say at the UN General Assembly.
It is essential to preserve press freedom. Journalists like Julian Assange cannot be punished for informing society in a transparent and legitimate way. Our fight is against disinformation and cybercrime. Apps and platforms should not abolish the labor laws we fight so hard for. When we become president of the G20 next December, we will spare no effort to place the fight against inequalities and all forms of immersion at the center of the international agenda. It is essential to preserve press freedom.
So there's also the not only it's not just him, it's not just Lula who mentioned Assange, but also here I'm getting you the next clip. We also had the So if I remember correctly, if I recall correctly, the president of Bolivia also mentioned Assange, but it's very good of Lula. I'll show you another speech here. This is from the Serbian president. Look what he had to say.
Самые могущественные 19 стран приняли решение без задействования Совета Безопасности ООН. Повторюсь, без какого-либо решения со стороны Совета Безопасности ООН жестоко напасть и наказать суверенную страну в Европе, как они сказали, чтобы предотвратить гуманитарную катастрофу. Они, тем не менее, возмущаются, когда президент России употребил те же самые фразы, оправдывая его нападение на Украину. Они забыли, что они сами тогда же использовали те же самые слова. Хотел бы проинформировать, что Сербия, тем не менее, ни на сантиметр не зашла на территорию другой страны, не угрожала существованию любой другой страны. Но 24 года назад самые могущественные 19 стран не пожалели Сербию. Даже когда они сказали, что они работу свою завершили, они отметили, что вопрос Косово – это вопрос демократии, что и он должен быть решен в соответствии с положениями Устава ООН и других международно-правовых документах, но вопреки этому, вопреки всем документам международного права, им пришло в голову в 2008 году поддержать независимость так называемого Косово. Данное незаконное решение об отделении автономной провинции Косово и Метохи от Сербии было принято спустя 10 лет после окончания.
Ouch. They don't like the truth, do they? He just dropped a truth bomb on them. They don't like the truth, right? So it's not okay for Russia to respond to a valid, legitimate, real military threat on its borders. It's not okay for Russia to respond to NATO enlargement, NATO encirclement. But, you know, it's okay to destroy Iraq and destroy Syria and Libya and Afghanistan and Pakistan and you know, Yemen and Serbia and Yugoslavia, of course. That's totally fine. And then, of course, you know, it's not okay for the Russians that have been targeted, the ethnic Russians that have been killed, that have been massacred, that have been tortured, that have been turned into pariahs in their own country, right? Apparently, because it's Ukraine. It's not okay for them to have their own countries and to be protected by Russia. No, their votes are illegitimate. Their elections are illegitimate. You know, their independence is illegitimate. But then on the flip side, when it comes to Kosovo, that is legitimate, of course. Why? Because NATO is backing it. NATO is backing it. NATO is allowed to bomb whatever country it likes, even when it has literally no connection or relation whatsoever to anything in the North Atlantic, meaning Libya, for example, or Syria. And then it's okay for NATO to carve out countries when they like. Even 100 years ago, before there was anything like NATO, it's the same powers at play, right? You got the France and Britain carving up countries in Africa and carving up countries in Asia, you know, Pakistan, India, Syria, carved up into Lebanon and Israel, and, you know, of course, Palestine is erased. And this is all okay. It's all fine, you know? Screw the UN Charter. Screw international law. We do what we like whenever we please. But, you know, if you do what we do, we will get mad. Then we will really turn up the heat on you. Just scandalous. Honestly, scandalous. I'm really glad that he brought this up and he mentioned this, because it's good for them to have the truth, you know, in their face. They sometimes, actually not sometimes, always, they need to have the truth put in their goddamn faces. Serbia, Yugoslavia hasn't even recovered from what they've done to it. Iraq, Libya, same for all these countries that have been victims of NATO, haven't even recovered. Even, as I said, before there was anything such as NATO, when they were still colonial, you know, they were coming as colonizers and carving the countries up and making new borders. They still haven't recovered from that. Haven't recovered. Bastards. So last but not least, I have a small clip to play you, and this is from the. Okay, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to play you his speech at the UNGA. This is the Polish president, right? I'm talking about. I'm not going to play you what he said at the UN General Assembly, because it was so goddamn horrendous and boring. He was basically just, you know, getting on his knees and you know, barking barking US propaganda at everybody at the UN, right? So just horrible, so horrendous and boring. It's so boring. It's like watching somebody read out, a text with no intonation, nothing, just no. Horrendous. I wanted to kill myself. Listen, this is afterwards. So the same Polish president, look what he said about Ukraine.
Ja bym to porównał tak. Mamy trochę do czynienia tak z tonącym. My jesteśmy tym, który ratuje. Jak jest tonący, każdy, kto kiedykolwiek brał udział w ratowaniu tonącego, czy każdy, kto kiedykolwiek uczył się o tym, co dzieje się w tej sytuacji, wie o tym, że człowiek tonący jest niesłychanie niebezpieczny, ponieważ może pociągnąć w głębiny. Ma siłę niewyobrażalną na skutek obawy osobistej, pływu adrenaliny i może po prostu utopić ratującego. Chwyta się wszystkiego, mówi się przecież w przysłowiu, tonący brzytwy się chwyta. Rzeczywiście tonący chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Trochę to jest taka sytuacja jak dzisiaj między Polską a Ukrainą. Ukraina jest pod napaścią rosyjską, bez wątpienia jest w bardzo trudnej sytuacji. Chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Czy można mieć o to do niej pretensje? No, oczywiście można mieć pretensje. Ja bym to porównał tak. Mamy trochę do czynienia tak z tonącym. My jesteśmy tym, który ratuje. Jak jest tonący, każdy, kto kiedykolwiek brał udział w ratowaniu tonącego, czy każdy, kto kiedykolwiek uczył się o tym, co dzieje się w tej sytuacji, wie o tym, że człowiek tonący jest niesłychanie niebezpieczny, ponieważ może pociągnąć w głębiny. Ma siłę niewyobrażalną na skutek obawy osobistej, pływu adrenaliny i może po prostu utopić ratującego. Chwyta się wszystkiego, mówi się przecież w przysłowiu, tonący brzytwy się chwyta. Rzeczywiście tonący chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Trochę to jest taka sytuacja jak dzisiaj między Polską a Ukrainą. Ukraina jest pod napaścią rosyjską, bez wątpienia jest w bardzo trudnej sytuacji. Chwyta się wszystkiego, czego się da. Czy można mieć o to do niej...
So I'm playing this to you in relation to grain, of course, because you're seeing Poland and a handful of European countries, slowly starting to wake up, and they're still giving Ukraine weapons, they're giving their old stock, the stuff they don't want anymore. That's been true since the beginning, but at the same time, they've the countries, for example, like Germany, tried to give Ukraine some of their old stuff, but also, of course, Leopard tanks, right? So the stuff that they also employ in their arsenals. When it comes to Poland, why is he speaking like this about Ukraine, comparing Ukraine to a drowning man? He's saying this because, for example, Ukraine, regarding its wheat and grain exports, they flooded the EU. They flooded especially the neighboring countries like Poland with their grain, and the EU subsidized, helped them out with this. And what happened is that basically the price dropped like unimaginably because they flooded the market, and this screwed over Polish farmers. This screwed over farmers that are in neighboring countries, to Ukraine. So basically, this is one of the avenues, one of the areas where they just said, screw this. We are not allowing any grain, any wheat, nothing that comes from Ukraine into our country. We're banning it straight up, right? And now they're having this fight again about this, especially after the grain deal is gone, right? So the avenue that Ukraine had to export grain, through the Black Sea is gone because, of course, they weren't abiding by the deal. It's the same thing with as the nuclear deal. You have an agreement, and the Russians fulfill their end of the deal to the letter. The Iranians fulfill their end of the deal to the letter. Yet the other side just says screw you, and they do whatever they want. And then when the agreement fails because of them, because of the West, they start screaming, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, and they just lie in the media. They just lie and lie through their goddamn teeth. And so, one of the things that Ukraine has been trying to do by offsetting this grain going through Poland, they just won't have it. And it's funny watching them speak like now, because they don't hesitate, right? They don't hesitate. But I think a lot of these European leaders, like the Polish president, who were totally on board with the sanctions, who supported arming Ukraine, who supported Germany rearming as well, and allowing Germany to export weapons and make basically have a larger footprint in world conflicts, as opposed to making sure Germany is neutered. Germany cannot ever possibly have the capacity to do again what it did 2 times These countries, these politicians who allowed this to happen will be gone. They will be gone in a year or 2 years tops, because people are not going to accept, you know, what the BBC like to call a cost of living crisis. It's not a cost of living crisis. It's a we sanctioned Russia and shot ourselves in the foot crisis. But by the way, you have to pay for it, right? The politicians who approve this stuff, they don't pay for this. The taxpayer foot their bill, right? So if an MP, for example, in Westminster, you know, they're on board with sanctions or so on, and the price of electricity and gas goes up, guess what? They get to claim that as expenses, right? So meaning it's paid by the taxpayer. They don't ever feel the effects of what it means to go into the grocery store, to go to buy food, and then cooking oil or bread or whatever it is twice the price, you know, 2 times higher. They don't have to feel these effects. They're not affected by that. But guess what? Most people are, and they're not going to tolerate this. He would do well. He would do well to understand that, because this is not just about grain and so on. You know, this is really Ukraine putting everyone at risk, and especially the United States and Britain using Ukraine to put everyone at risk. You know, this is really, really not a joke, because the Russians have said multiple times, we have this red line, that red line, and we keep crossing it and telling them, you know, it's okay, you know, we're going to defy you, and maybe one day we'll find out whether, you know, we crossed the line and there's a nuclear war. Who wants to sit around and find out whether, you know, this thing or that thing is really the red line for the Russians? I don't think this is a sane strategy. If you're sane, you don't do that. You don't keep provoking the Russians until you find out whether they're going to use a nuclear weapon or not because of what you did. This is madness. You don't play these games, right? You know, this is Russian roulette on another level, like literally on another level. Okay, madness roulette. Goddamn madness. Again, I'm just going to play this clip with the Israeli being thrown out because it's so funny. It made my day. He's so pompous. He thinks he's so hot with that stupid piece of paper. Free Iranian women. You free Iranian women. Why don't you get the hell out of the Middle East and stop, destroying Iran with sanctions and you know, using Saudi Arabia and America to destroy Iran? Go away. You care about Iranian women?
Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Terrorists.
You know what? They not arrested him, but detained him because he doesn't behave like a diplomat. So they don't think he's a diplomat, because this guy's supposed to be an ambassador, right? He's there as a representative of Israel, right? Of the chosen people. And he behaves like a teenager. He behaves like a clown. And for what? For what? Just to hold up a piece of propaganda? You think the Israelis give a rat's ass about Mahsa Amini or anyone else? First of all, like I said, there's no proof that she even she was killed by anyone. There's literally no proof. There is no proof. The only evidence we have, the CCTV footage, the coroner's report, the medical examiner, nothing at all suggests that this is true. It's only because they want to make you believe that it's true, so you accept the consequences, or rather the following acts that they will commit against Iran, right? So that you are conditioned to accept sanctions, even though it kills people, even though it hurts people, that you accept them waging, a war through social media, that you accept the violence that people committed against the police, right? Remember, many Iranian security forces were killed, like lynched in the street. Same thing in Syria, by the way, when they tried to start, they did when they started that war, which again, oh, surprise, Israel is behind that too. A lot of security forces were just murdered, right? And it turns out what they say, oh, Iran did this and Syria did that. For number one, it's not true. And number two, it's none of your business. So don't think of this as anything except a ridiculous propaganda PR stunt. And it's so funny watching it backfire in real time. It's just, oh. The Israelis think they're above everyone. And they're not. They're really not. My goodness. So, let me see what else I have. I have a lot of things for you left, man. We're still going. So, again, let me take a look here at where we are. We've got a donation on PayPal. So, let me read this out. Give me a second. It's from Peter. There's no note, but thank you nevertheless, Peter. I appreciate that. And again, anyone who wants to support my work, please consider doing so. You can send a donation on PayPal with a note or question or a remark, and I'll happily read it out. You can send a donation on YouTube as a super chat or on Rockfin. There's CashApp, there's Venmo, there's also Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, there's the merch, store.richardmedhurst.com, where you can buy the t-shirts. These are all ways of supporting my work, and if you find, you found something informative, you gained, you gained some insightful information about a certain topic, or you just want to support independent media, then please consider joining on YouTube or on Patreon. So I'm gonna show you the thing again. We are actually at 707 now, aren't we? We are at 707. Let me update that. So we were at 705 and we are at 707 and we're trying to get to 750. That means, quick maths, we are 43 members away. So guys, please, I'm counting on you. I need you. And we've got hundreds of people watching, so I'm pretty sure that we can find 43 among you who are willing to donate $10 a month, $1 a month, £1 a month, €1 a month. Doesn't matter. Maybe start in renminbi or rubles, given the way that our currencies are going and theirs are heading in Russia and China. So let me continue, and of course I'll play a crab dance whenever somebody joins, either on Patreon or on YouTube. I'm more than happy to unleash the crab dance on you. Let me show you our next topic. So we're going to discuss I'm going to discuss something that you're not going to hear many people discuss in and nevertheless, it's very important, okay? And it's got a lot to do with Turkey, with NATO, with the United States, with Russia, and so on. It's big, big, big issue, okay? So let's talk about Armenia, okay? Because this is not just about Armenia. This also relates to Russia, to Moscow, to Putin. It relates to Washington. It relates to Turkey. And you've had several huge developments in the last couple of days. So Pashinyan, Armenia's leader, I mean, I can only describe him as a traitor. This man is really a fool. He is a traitor, and he just gave away a chunk of Armenia to Azerbaijan. So just so you understand this, Armenia has, existed for millennia, for thousands of years, okay? And throughout history, its size has fluctuated, right? Because someone would take a piece, and then they would take another piece. I mean, if I show you the maps throughout the ages, you can see what I'm talking about. How it has been consistently throughout history, plundered and reduced. I mean, if we look at 70 BC, look how big Greater Armenia was back then. It even includes Syria, right? So then when you look at the first Armenian Republic in 1918, it's twice the size of what it is today in 1918, okay? Because it's maybe you don't want to talk about biblical times, right? Obviously. But just look at 100 years ago, how big it was, twice the size. What happened? You have basically Turkey that not only committed a genocide against Armenia, that killing 1.5 million Armenians. Remember, the word genocide was coined because of what Turkey did to Armenia. Not only did Turkey massacre 1.5 million Armenians, but on top of that, Turkey basically swallowed 2/3 of Armenia, right? So Armenia is now reduced to what you see, as a country that's sandwiched between Azerbaijan and Turkey. And remember, Azerbaijan and Turkey are one and the same. Don't think of Azerbaijan as a different country. It's just Turkey. It's literally Turkey. And it's not me saying that. They even say this themselves, right? Erdogan, they've said this themselves, that we are one people. They are, right? They identify as one ethnicity and so on, right? So just to show you what's going on, there's a region here. There's a region, a piece of Armenia called Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, in Nagorno-Karabakh, the majority of people living there are Armenians, okay? But apparently, Azerbaijan thinks it's a part of Azerbaijan. So they've basically, claimed this as part of their land since 1991, since the end of the Cold War. Remember, Armenia used to be part of the Soviet Union. So heavily influenced, right, by the Soviet Union, and is even part of CSTO, which is kind of the successor to the Warsaw Pact. give or take. And so Nagorno-Karabakh has 120,000 Armenians living there. And now Pashinyan, who is the leader of Armenia, instead of helping them to defend their land, he has basically said, you know what, I'll take in 40,000 of you. Not everyone, of course, because then there would be a revolt against him. And, you know, he's basically gifting away the land to Azerbaijan. So think of, if you're somebody from Nagorno-Karabakh, you're Armenian, right? Because the majority of them are Armenian. You have the choice of either leaving your home and going, you know, into Yerevan, the capital, or wherever, and losing your home, right? Or you can stay there in Nagorno-Karabakh and you can be absorbed into Azerbaijan. And so, in either way, you lose your home in the end, because Azerbaijan gets to keep it. You know, I think it's really disgusting. Honestly, it's really disgusting that he has allowed this to happen. And I want to show you just on the map what I'm talking about. So you see here, what Armenia is today. Just the yellow part. This is the yellow part. Look how big it used to be, and Turkey has swallowed all of this, right? So Armenia is just the yellow part today. And you can see in orange, what do you have in orange? You have areas that are under foreign control, but nevertheless are inhabited by Armenians mostly, right? And so, of course, this includes Nagorno-Karabakh, and he basically just gifted that away. Here's another map saying that, basically indicating the same thing. So the light red, not the dark red, the light red is Armenian majorities living in neighboring countries today. So that includes in Georgia, up there in Georgia, and you also have in Azerbaijan, or what apparently is Azerbaijan. And you know, I think this is really messed up that he's doing this. And so the thing is, what's going on with Pashinyan? How does this relate to Moscow? Well, I told you that Armenia, you know, is part of the CSTO, and also, which is the military alliance, the successor to the. It only has 6 members. It's a successor to the Warsaw Pact in so many words. And you know, he basically made sure that Armenia moves away from Moscow, right? What do I mean by that? Well, one example is he had the Armenian army. He allowed the Americans to come and train and run an exercise with the Armenian military. How about that? What do you think the Iranians and the Russians are thinking when they see that? Remember, just again, I'm going to zoom out here on the map so you can see what I'm talking about. Look how close this is to Iran and to Russia, okay? What do you think Putin is thinking when he sees the Americans in Armenia training with them, huh? Iran is literally next door, literally. It borders Armenia, okay? So the Iranians are going, what the hell are you doing with the Americans? And the Russians up here, right, who are also next door, right? They're also going, what the hell are you doing with the Americans? And remember, when Pashinyan, he got into power, basically, you know, Putin didn't call him for a few days because he wanted to, you know, give him the cold shoulder, give him the silent treatment, because he knows what his policies are. You know, Pashinyan is somebody who is educated in the West. Usually, I mean, so was Bashar al-Assad. So I guess it depends, right? But he certainly, you know, took that influence home with him, and he wants to move Armenia away from Russia and from the Russian sphere and into the American one. Now, I'm not saying Armenia should be part of the Russian sphere. I think it's way too influenced by the Russians, way too much. You know, like even the language, too much, way too much. And you know, Armenia has existed since before anyone ever heard of Russia, right? Remember, even in 70 BC, right? So I don't think that it should have. It'd be so influenced by it, but you shouldn't also. I mean, just think of geopolitics. He shouldn't be doing this. He is a next door neighbor of Russia. He cannot just decide to bring the Americans into the fold and think that nothing will happen. No, people are watching. People are paying attention. People can see what he's doing. And so one thing that I had in mind, now I'm just speculating here. One thing that I'm thinking is, you know, why don't the Russians help? Because the Russians are the ones who sent peacekeepers to fix the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh, you know, and they were supposed to calm things down between Azerbaijan and between Armenia, right? And now what's happening is that Armenia is losing a chunk. Once again, like always throughout history, another piece. They just want to carve it down till it's nothing, right? Grind it down. So why didn't the Russians do anything? It's funny because the Americans and the French, they take Armenia's position in this whole issue, which is interesting, right? And yet we come to the events in the last 2 days where this peace, this truce was signed, the ceasefire between the militants in Nagorno-Karabakh and Pashinyan and Azerbaijan and so on. And why was this allowed to happen? I think, and I'm speculating here, I think that Putin knows what's going to happen. Putin knows that because of this truce, people are going to go nuts. They're going to lose it against Pashinyan. And that's what's happening. If you look right now, what's happening in Armenia, people are protesting everywhere. They're saying, how can you betray us like this? How can you betray the people in Nagorno-Karabakh? How can you just give away this land to Azerbaijan after everything? They hate him. And they have, who can blame them, right? And so I'm speculating here. I'm just thinking, what if Putin knows this is going to happen and he wants to get rid of Pashinyan because he's too pro-Western and get somebody from the opposition into power who will be, on Moscow's side? I think this is something that's worth thinking about. And turns out I'm not the only one who thought of this. Look what I found in CNBC of all places. So one of the analysts that they spoke to, called Kusa, he said that Moscow is interested in replacing Pashinyan with any other loyal figure from the opposition camp, which would further consolidate Russia's control over Yerevan. Yerevan is the capital of Armenia, which had been weakened in recent years by Pashinyan's attempts to reach out to the West and by the war in Ukraine. Remember also another thing that Pashinyan did, he's giving aid to Ukraine. He's giving aid to Ukraine, the other side that's fighting against Russia. So that's another way of saying, screw you to Putin, right? He's saying, screw you. I want to have military drills with the Americans. I want to give aid to Ukraine so they can fight you on the battlefield. These are giant, massive middle fingers to the Kremlin. You cannot behave like this in politics and think no one is going to notice. The act of him giving aid to Ukraine is worse than the actual aid, right? Because it has a worse and larger impact than the aid will on the battlefield. It has a much more massive, a much bigger political footprint and consequences, right? So no wonder the Russians would want to get rid of him. So maybe this is like some 14th, 15th dimensional chess where Putin's saying, you know what? Because remember, the Russians are the ones who proposed this truce. So in a way, they're responsible for this land being ceded to Azerbaijan. Why would the Russians do this? Right? They're supposed to be there as peacekeepers, huh? And the Iranians approved this. The Iranians are saying, yeah, we support this ceasefire, which really means that the land is lost. It's taken away from Armenia and given to Azerbaijan, even though most people who live there are not from Azerbaijan. They're Armenians. Why would Russia and Iran support this? Now, I speculate, again, I'm saying this is we're just brainstorming here, just bouncing ideas around. Maybe they want to get rid of Pashinyan because he's too pro-West. They know that people are going to go ape. They're going to go ape shit against him, and they are. And they want to get rid of him. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But I think that in general, this guy, he has lost control of Armenia. He no longer has any support at home. He is hated by the people. He has weakened himself internationally and also domestically. And the Russians don't like him. They want to get rid of him. They've made that clear, as I told you, with Putin's, refusing to even speak to him for several days. This is really clear that his tenure is untenable, no pun intended. So I don't think he'll be in office for long. I could be wrong, but again, I think what's more important here is how we see the relationship between Armenia and Russia progress, right? It's not good for Russia. It's not good for Armenia to have someone like Pashinyan in place. This guy is dangerous. He doesn't know what he's doing. The only thing he has accomplished so far is to bring in America through the back door and to give away land to Azerbaijan. Wow. Well done. Great job. You know, just look at this map of the Armenian diaspora, like what has happened because of the genocide. Look how many countries have huge Armenian communities that which is not a bad thing, but the reason that they were scattered all over the world is because of the massacre, because of the genocide, right? And so along with that genocide, you know, along with that genocide came a huge loss of land, a colossal loss of land. And Armenia is again experiencing not only the killing of people in Nagorno-Karabakh, but also the loss of its land, which through time and time again through history, it has experienced. And I think it's very sad. Very, very sad. Remember, Azerbaijan as a country is not only like one with Turkey, but also a huge Israeli ally. So you know, who is he giving this land to? Azeris don't even live there, as I told you. They don't come from there. They don't live there. And Azerbaijan gives gas and oil to Israel in exchange for weapons. Most of the equipment that the Azerbaijani military have, that the Azeri military have, are Israeli. Need I say more? Remember, Iran also views Azerbaijan as a threat, because if you look at the map, Azerbaijan shares a border with Iran, and if Azerbaijan has good ties with Israel, then what do you think is on the border right here? What do you think is in the sea? You have Mossad, you have the Israeli intelligence service on Iran's border, thanks to Azerbaijan. That's another huge problem and threat. Maybe that's why Iran and Russia supported the truce. Maybe they want Pashinyan gone. Who knows? But Azerbaijan as a country, I mean, again, this is just because it's the quote-unquote internationally recognized border, it means absolutely nothing. Again, you know, they keep massacring Armenians and taking away the land. I think it's scandalous, really, really scandalous. And the fact that the French and the Americans support Armenia, but yet they did nothing, I think that also says a lot. That also says a lot. You know, they're not willing to actually get involved when it matters. When it comes to fighting Azerbaijan, when it comes to defending Nagorno-Karabakh. Why do you think that is? Because Pashinyan is weak. They're happy to do drills together, but they're not going to give you weapons. They see how weak he is. India and Canada. This is another big issue that we need to discuss. And I want to say, first of all, thank you to Vishal, our latest patron. Thank you. I appreciate your support very, very much. So we are now at 708, I believe. Guys, come on, let's do it. I believe in you. I have faith in you. I know we can do this. And we just need 42 more people. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not, because we're hundreds of people watching. So let's do it. And by the way, if you haven't already, just as a side note, please remember to like the video, to click the thumbs up button, because it helps the channel. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from, what country are you in, what city are you in, so I can shout you guys out. And yeah, if you can also donate on PayPal, that's good too, or on YouTube, whatever kind of support you can give the channel, whether it's just liking the videos, sharing the videos, or donating. I'm appreciative and grateful for all forms of support, and I thank you very much. In any case, I owe Vishal a crab dance. Everybody, give him a round of applause.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen.
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
We got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up. Get up.
Oh!
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why attack Sanders? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are great. And we've got a super chat here. This is from Davey, I believe. And it's Davey B says, can you talk about, if possible, about what happened exactly with the Sikh assassinated in Canada, supposedly by Modi's orders? Isn't India an issue for the BRICS due to an unresolved issue between India and China? Cheers. It's funny because I literally said before the crowd dance that I'm going to talk about this. So I'm glad you asked. Perfect timing. And let's tackle it. So I have something prepared for you guys, and I'll explain all of this. It's very, very important, and it's good. It's excellent that you bring up the issue of BRICS. It is related to that. So, okay. The Sikh who was assassinated in Canada, the Canadian Sikh who was killed in Canada. Canada has now accused Modi of being behind this. I'm going to explain the whole situation and break this down for you about Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was actually elected head of his temple in where he lived in British Columbia, and he was killed there in June. And let me show you this clip of Trudeau, basically, you know, just straight up saying, yeah, India did this.
Today I'm rising to inform the House of an extremely serious matter. I just informed the leaders of the opposition directly. I want now to speak with all Canadians. Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada is a rule of law country. The protection of our citizens and defense of our sovereignty are fundamental. Our top priorities have therefore been, one, that our law enforcement and security agencies ensure the continued safety of all Canadians, and two, that all steps be taken to hold perpetrators of this murder to account. So,
why is this an issue? Well, let me explain. In Canada, you have a large population of Punjab Canadians, right? So almost a million, about 950,000. So that's about 2.6% of Canada's population. And by the way, you have also similarly large Punjab communities in Australia, in New Zealand, in England, and so on. And so some Punjabs who are also Sikh, right? So Sikhism is basically the 5th largest religion in the world. Specifically those who come from the Punjab region, which is located inside Pakistan and inside India, right? It's on the border. Some of them want a separate country for themselves, and they want to name it Khalistan and so on. And Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the man who was assassinated in British Columbia in June, he basically was designated a terrorist by India in 2020. And so the Indian government publicly, had a grudge against him. And now Trudeau it's not just Trudeau, by the way, it's also the Americans who are saying that, Modi ordered the hit, and he sent two agents all the way to British Columbia and Canada to kill this guy. And, they're furious about it. And I mean, look, if this is true, yeah, they should be furious because, obviously you cannot just show up and kill people on anyone's soil, right? And remember the Israelis, when they assassinated a member of Hamas, a senior figure in Hamas in Dubai, they falsified Australian passports, British passports, German passports, all the so-called allied countries. Do you think they did anything? One of the Mossad agents pretended to be a Holocaust, pretended that his grandparents were Holocaust survivors, or Holocaust victims rather, and that he wanted to get German citizenship, right, to claim it back. And it was a complete lie. He just wanted to get the passport so he could go on this mission and assassinate someone. And the Germans actually helped him escape afterwards, gave him to Poland, and then he flew from Poland to, like, no punishment whatsoever. So I just find it funny that now they take issue in the West with ordering hits on their soil, you know, or you know, in their in their presence. Because it's India. Well, it's got something to do with BRICS, which I'll get to in a second. But just to give you the background, when we talk about, you know, this Khalistan idea of separatism, this is exactly here in the Punjab region, both in India and in Pakistan. Okay, so again, the reason that this is such an issue in India, you know, Sikhs basically make up 2% of India's population. Okay, and when it comes to the 1980s, okay, you had an operation, a military operation against the Golden Temple. Now, when you talk about the Sikh religion, I also, by the way, I hate this one in the news. They keep saying Sikh. It's not Sikh, it's Sikh. Anyway, when you talk about the Golden Temple, this is the holiest site in the Sikh religion, okay? And so in June 1984, the Indian Prime Minister orders, you know, an attack on it, and they completely destroy it. This is a photo of the temple, by the way, right? The Golden Temple. So you can think how furious people got because of that. And you know what happened as a result? Just a few months later, so remember, this was in June 1984, October 1984, Indira Gandhi is assassinated by 2 Sikh bodyguards because of this. So this is a very, very big issue in India that never went away, right? Like the scars are still fresh, okay? So that's why the idea of separatism, it's really frowned upon actually as a result. None of the major parties in India support it, even the Sikh ones. That doesn't mean no one supports it. Obviously, Hardeep Singh Nijjar did, right? So a lot of the diaspora, meaning Sikhs who have moved away from India and live in Canada now or in England or whatever, they not all of them, but a lot of them do advocate for it, and they can more openly in those countries, even though India doesn't like it, okay? So, you know, you need to think of this as kind of like how Saudi Arabia or Turkey would behave, right, with dissidents or people that take issue with the government. Like, yeah, they'll actually send someone to you know, carry out a hit. Now, do I personally believe the Indians did it? Yeah, I think they did. If you say that, you'll upset them, because as a result of Trudeau's accusation, they expelled a Canadian diplomat from India, and then Canada did the other thing, right? It's always like this. If country A expels a diplomat from country B, then country B will do the same with a country A diplomat. Okay, so here you can see, you can see here also another issue in response. So India's foreign ministry, they announced a temporary halt to visa applications for Canadian citizens following Trudeau's accusations that the Indian government killed Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Okay, so they're really angry about this. They're really, really angry about this. And again, I really don't know what to say here, because it does seem like they could have done it. Now, again, before I continue, I'm speculating, okay? It could also be that the Americans did it. Why do I say this? Why the Americans? What do they have to do with any of this? Well, let's say that whether the Indians did it or not is really irrelevant here. I'll tell you why. Because they are using this issue either way to pressure India. Why India? Because India is a member of the BRICS, and BRICS is now, you know, on the rise. It presents a challenge economically and politically to the West. The G20 is an absolute fart of a joke, like an absolute fart, you know. The other week, they tried to court the African Union. Like, they think, they like to say, oh, 54 countries just joined. No, they didn't. They absolutely did not join the G20. No one cares about the G20. Literally nobody. The G20 is irrelevant. It was actually India hosting it, and you could see the body language between Trudeau and Modi, you know, very tense, not as lovey-dovey as usual, right? So because as Trudeau says himself, that he brought this up and raised this with Modi personally recently, and I can only imagine the G20 being one of those occasions. So my point here is that whether the Indians did it or the Americans did it, it doesn't matter, because they are using this to beat India over the head and basically bring it into the fold so that it cannot rise as a major player in BRICS, and that they can use it against China, right? Because India has an issue on the border with China. Now, obviously, these things can be resolved, but when you have these issues, they like to exploit them and make things bigger, right? So they want to make sure that India is basically an in for them into BRICS, and that they can use it against China. This is what Erdogan did in Turkey with Saudi Arabia when they had Khashoggi killed. Remember Khashoggi, the journalist? So he was assassinated in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. And Erdogan made a big stink out of it, and he rightfully should have, but he didn't do it because he actually cares about journalists or people being assassinated on his, in Istanbul. He did it because he wasn't happy with Saudi Arabia, and you had a break by this time, or rather a split between Turkey and Qatar, who are Muslim Brotherhood, and Saudi Arabia in relation to the war in Syria, because all of these countries, Turkey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, were funding various groups in Syria, and they just didn't agree with each other and about the potential gains that they had from meddling in Syria. So you had a split between Qatar, and because Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood and so is Qatar, he was beating Saudi Arabia over the head, and there are also economic reasons and so on. But this is my point, right? This is my point, that the Canadian government, the Americans, when they feel like it, of course they can look the other way, but they don't want to look the other way because they don't like how India is progressing in terms of the multipolar world, right? Remember, you cannot just look at this as an isolated thing. You have to think, why does Canada care? Of course, this is a crime. It's horrendous. It's awful. And if a foreign country sanctioned this makes it even bigger. Even more of a scandal. Absolutely, yes. But why? The Canadians and the Americans and the West, they can look the other way when it suits them, just like I mentioned with the Israeli example. So why do they care so much now that they're raising it to the point where they're willing to have diplomats kicked out? And it's really a giant spat. Trudeau's getting up in Parliament and announcing this. This is very different. Keep in mind, Trudeau himself said that he raised this with Modi. No diplomats were kicked out, right? No visa applications were halted. This only became an issue when he raised it in Parliament in front of everybody. Okay? Do you follow? So the Indians are not happy about being beaten over the head with this, right? And they're being beaten over the head with this because they want to weaken India and control it, right? They don't like, as I said, the fact that BRICS is now expanding from, gone from 5 to 11 members, that India buying Russian oil and reselling it, like crazy. So there are many, many economic reasons for this. And they want India, of course, to be in on their new alternative to the Silk Road, which is getting a trade route that, goes from India into the United Arab Emirates, into Saudi Arabia, into Jordan, into Israel, and onwards into Europe. They need India to be in on this project, right? And India, as I already mentioned, has pre-existing conditions with China regarding the border. So, it's not like India even likes China that much to begin with, but these are the two most populous countries on earth. They are BRICS members. They are economic powerhouses. They need to learn to get along with each other, and they can do, but not when you have, not when you have the West trying to take these issues and expand them and multiply them, which is what they always do, right? They go get involved in somebody else's thing, and make it a much bigger issue than it is. So I think this is a very important point, and the fact that it was in the news that the Americans had come to the conclusion the Indians did the hit, that I find this very suspicious. What do the Americans have anything to do with Sikh separatists being assassinated on Canadian soil? Yes, Canada's a neighbor, but do you think the Americans care that much about British Columbia? Why were they talking about this with the Canadians? This for me is a bit weird. Now, of course, there could be nothing to it. Maybe the Canadians just wanted the Americans' help on, to ascertain who was really responsible. It could be nothing. But it's never just nothing in politics, is it? There's always something. So I think this definitely, it's a crime, and it's awful that he was assassinated. And it's even more disgusting that they are using this as a geopolitical tool, like something to hang over India's head, and bring them, into line, basically. So you have to pay attention to that, because right now you have many things happening for, many things orchestrated by the West to crush BRICS, to crush the Silk Road, right? You have MBS and Netanyahu announcing this, Israeli-Saudi partnership, this economic corridor. And, you had Biden with Modi and the G20 being an absolute flop. Many things happening where they're trying to counter the multipolar world, but it's not going to plan, so they resort to things like this. So this whole region, by the way, is actually, it's called Punjab. Okay, just so you know, this whole region here, it's called Punjab. It's the province. And of course, why, you guys take a guess, why is this in two countries? Like, why is this split into Pakistan and into India? Take a guess who split it. Just take a guess. So, when it became clear that Britain could no longer hold on to its colonies, what our government did is they decided to do what the Americans are doing right now in Syria, which is kind of like, okay, I can't have my way, so I'm going to set everything on fire. So the British version of that was basically allowing the European Zionist militias to take over Palestine, right? And also carving up India, right, into India and Pakistan. And, well, Kashmir is another issue now. That's the point. You basically, and even 100 years later, we're almost there. Let's say 80, 70 years later, there's these fights, these issues are still there. And remember, when they carved India and Pakistan up, why did they do this? The idea was that, we're going to make Pakistan a homeland for the Indians who happen to be, or rather the Punjabs who happen to be Muslim, right? So you had a transfer of populations, each one going the other way. Millions of people, in horrendous conditions. Many of them died. And all because of some people, in London, pulling out a map and carving a line based on what? Based on sectarian issues, which is the same strategy in the Middle East, right? Like, we're going to have like Arab Christians in here, in a place called Lebanon, right? We're going to make Syria smaller. We're going to have this thing called Israel for Zionists, for Jews. It's all sectarian. It's like we're going to inflame these issues and make sure that people have something to separate them so we can control them better. It's divide and conquer, like literally on a map. You can see it in your face, divide and conquer. That's what it's about, right? So, that's what it is, right? So I've been near this border region, okay? So when I was young, I went to Lahore, and near Lahore on the border, they do a changing of the guard, the Pakistani and the Indian army, and it's really awesome. It's really, really nice. It's very, very famous. It's at the Atari border, okay? And this is of course, if you just look at the map, right, where this is Lahore, big city in Pakistan, and then here's the Atari border where they do the changing of the guard, and you can see here, what does it say there? This is the Punjab region, right? So right in the same vicinity, right in the vicinity, and it's absolutely beautiful, and We'll see where this goes. Right now, it's still an argument on a diplomatic level, but I don't think it's far-fetched to connect it to the new Silk Road, to BRICS and so on. On the contrary, it's so clear what their intentions are with this. You shouldn't think that Canada isn't involved in, countering BRICS. On the contrary, remember, Canada is a Five Eyes country. Canada and America and Britain are they're one country. It's one Anglo-Saxon empire, right? From London all the way to, to Australia, to New Zealand, with Canada, with America. It's one Anglo-Saxon empire, right? That's why they're the Five Eyes. There's a reason for that. So never put it past them to do this kind of stuff, do Washington's or London's bidding. Of course. In any case, very again, I don't necessarily support it's not about supporting Sikh separatism or something like that. Not at all. It's just that I think it's sad that this guy was killed and they use him as like some pawn in this game against India. I think that's what's disgusting, And the Indians, they're right to be angry at the Canadians, especially if they didn't do it. There you go. That's really it. That wraps it up for now. So again, thank you for all your kind endorsements. We have Michael, who's just joined on Patreon. We have Gerhard, who's just joined as well. Tell me, Claudia, where does that leave us right now? I think we might be at 709 or 710. I'm not quite sure. I've lost count. So, in essence, let me say that we have around 40 people left. Come on, guys. We've got how many hundreds of you watching here? We're live on YouTube, live on Rumble, live on Odyssey, live on Rockfin, live everywhere, coming straight into your tube in the living room. And I need you guys to help me. I need you guys to sustain my work so I can keep doing this for a living. I depend on you guys entirely and wholly. And so if you can donate on PayPal, thank you. On CashApp, thank you. Remember, give me any notes or questions that you have as well. Or just drop them in the comment section. I mean, I read both anyway. Patreon is another way of supporting the show, right? So it's patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. And I would be most grateful. We don't have anyone who joined on YouTube. I highly recommend it. Look at the emojis that you get that Claudia put together, right? Hold on, let me spam a couple of them right here. We've got Assad. I think we need a Xi Jinping, right? Claudia, we need Xi Jinping to put him next to Assad. Then we can have both emojis, right? So there you go. Claudia has also pasted the links in the chat in case you're too lazy to type. You can just click on it. So no malware, I promise. No, seriously, these are really great emojis. And I like that there's a shoe on the bush one, right? There's a shoe on his face. So yeah, I have a crab dance for Gerhard and I have a crab dance for Michael. Thank you guys very much for supporting my work. I'm very grateful. Everybody give them a round of applause. Let's go.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you.
والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China.
And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me? Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh!
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why you text Ender? Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
God, that noise just kills me. Oh. Oh man, I was not expecting that when Claudia upgraded the crab dance. Every time we hit the goal, we upgrade the crab dance. So as soon as we hit 750, I promise you, I'm gonna put something new into the crab dance to spice it up even more. It's like it's a permanent pot, right? That's always cooking and simmering on the stove, and it's alive and lively thanks to you guys. So thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Gerhard, for supporting my work. I'm grateful. And you see the new thing, Claudia. I'm very grateful. Upgraded the Biden sniffanometer, as I like to call it. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's Biden sniffing the thermometer, in case that's not clear. So guys, I'm trying to fill the thermometer up. We're trying to get to 750, so I implore you to please support my work. And if you don't want to support this channel, support somebody else in independent media. You know, it's all the same and all just as well. So thank you very much. And again, I'm Art says that Hillary fart. My gosh. Kiara says no Nasser in the pictures. You're right. You're right. Shame on us. Shame on us. Claudia, I insist we have to add Nasser, the legend, the man himself. You know, Nasser is like the most popular Arab politician who ever existed in the history of everything. No, really. If you look at a photo of his funeral, I'll pull one up. Okay. Let me show you. Give me a second. I mean, actually, millions of people. The photo, you can't see anything in the photo because it's just a sea of people. It's one of the biggest funerals in history, in human history. Like, I literally mean that, quite literally. You can't see anything. You can't see anything. It's just a sea of people everywhere. My goodness, hold on. I don't know if you can make anything out. I'm trying to find. Just look at it. It's colossal, massive, and you can understand why, because you know he was very he defended the Palestinians, right? And I like him especially because he not only delivered the message eloquently in Arabic but also in English, right? So people who are in the West, they got it straight in their faces. They got the truth raw, right? And you know, very big proponent of pan-Arabism. So you know, basically having all Arab countries become one, because that's what that's what they used to be. That's how they used to be before they were carved up, before the Mongols, the Turks, the Ottomans, the British, the French, blah blah blah. You know what? You know, if you go back to the 7th or the 8th or the 9th or the 10th century. If you wanted to do anything in the world, you would go to Arabia, you would go to Iraq, you would go to Syria, because that was literally the center of the world. Everything that was anything was happening there, right? You wanted to study medicine, you would go there. Medicine was literally being, as a not only a profession, but a science was being created in Iraq, in Baghdad, in Damascus. You know, algebra. Well, can't say I'm a fan of mathematics, but you understand the importance, right, of modern mathematics. Of calculus, of it's actually al-jabr, actually is the original name, right? Even the word alcohol is Arabic. You see how all the sciences were advanced, and then as soon as you have, you know, the Ottomans and the Mongols come in, they just plunge Arabia into the Dark Ages. This is what's so sad. And they and then of course after that, you know, the Ottomans alone, so just the Ottomans, like 400 years of occupation. And then you have the West coming in because of World War I, and France and Britain taking over and so on. And you know, just how do you recover from that? So here, I just want to play one last clip. Give me a second. This was... I don't recall what outlet this was. I'm just going to look for it. It's Nasser talking about the Palestinians. He was giving an interview to some station or outlet, maybe the BBC. I don't know. Oh my god, I just came across this Israeli journalist, this one here, that no one wanted to speak to during the World Cup. And I almost didn't put that thread together, and I'm so glad I did. And I was surprised to see it in what was it, Newsweek and CNN. I was like, wow, you actually reported on the fact that literally no one at the World Cup wants to speak to Israelis. Thank you. I was pleasantly surprised, really. Okay, hold on. Maybe it's this one, I don't remember.
Became and fulfill their national aspirations, they come underground.
This is from ITN, okay? I'm looking through the...
of the Israeli ships. We realize now in the Western countries that they are concentrating on the passing of the Israeli ships through the Suez Canal, neglecting the other problems. I mean the rights of the Arabs of Palestine, who were expelled from their territory. The Arabs have the rights to return to their homes, to return to their territory as it was decided by the United Nations. Israel is asking to use the Suez Canal. According to the Constantinople Convention of 1888, Article 10, Egypt had the right to defend herself and defend her territory. According to this article, we stopped the Israeli ships from using the Suez Canal from 1948 until now.
Are you going to go on doing that?
Well, we feel that this is apart from the Palestine.
Well, now, you say that you cannot isolate this question, but yes. As you remember, the Security Council, you'll remember, did in 1951 when it ruled that the
He mentioned the Suez Canal. Gamal Abdel Nasser, he nationalized the Suez Canal, right? And, I mean, you have to imagine that, you know, this idea that our colony, you take back your own resources, like this is, makes people in the West, makes their brains explode, right? How dare you take back your own land? We have to teach you a lesson. And so, you know, just because he nationalized the Suez Canal, which is Egypt, right? France and Britain attacked, and Israel attacked Egypt, so all three of them. And this is also important not because of the nationalization of the Suez Canal, but because of the final nail in the coffin of of British and French prestige or power on the world stage. Gone. Because what happened is the Americans, for some reason, right? Well, not for some reason, because for their own, to further their own interests, they got involved and they managed to pull back Britain and France and stop the war. And it really showed like who was running things now on the world stage, that it was no longer France, it was no longer Britain calling the shots, it's now America. That's the turning point. It's 1956, it's not 1945, 1956, Suez Canal. That is the turning point, without question. And of course, you have to remember that at the time the Americans were trying to bring Nasser into the fold, they were afraid that if he, the strategy was that, okay, we're going to hold back these countries from attacking you, and in exchange, you will get, you will become closer to the United States, and you won't want to ally yourself with the Soviet Union or buy weapons from the Soviet Union, which is the same thing basically, right? If you buy weapons in the eyes of Washington, it's like goodbye. You are with the Soviets if you bought their weapons. And that failed, actually. And this angered the Americans very, very much. Their strategy backfired. They thought that they could groom or woo Nasser and bring him into the fold, and it backfired. And well, not necessarily backfired, but it just didn't work, right? So in the end, he did buy weapons from the Soviet Union, and he also got the Israelis very nervous because he was building very successful, very good ballistic missiles, regrettably using Nazis to do it, which is a shame. But yeah, so when we talk about the military capability, he was making Egypt a big player, right? Soviet weapons, missiles. And then politically, he was asserting himself not only in the Arab world, but internationally, as, the one calling the shots in Egypt, on the Mediterranean, in the Red Sea, in the Suez Canal, you know, taking back the land, which is part of being, you know, anti-colonial as well. So it wasn't just about being pan-Arab. It's about being against colonialism, telling the French and the British, fuck off. I'm not giving you my land. I won't let you control this land. Telling Israel is to piss off as well, right? But 1967 was really, you know, bad, and I think he died because of that, right? I mean, I know that he died soon after, and I think it's because of you know, of the war, the 6-day war, that he had I don't remember if it was a stroke or heart attack, but in any case, he died, unfortunately, and that's why he had so many people. So I go back to what Kiara said. Yes, Kiara, we need a Nasser emoji, definitely, to make the emojis complete in our collection henceforth. So thank you very much, guys, and let me just check real quick. Do we have any new members on Patreon? I don't see anything because it's not refreshing. Nevertheless, I thank you guys for your donations. And please remember, if you found this show informative, you gained some insight, or you just like the way I speak, please support the program in any way or capacity that you can. Even if it's throwing a few dollars or pounds or euros or rubles or renminbi a month on Patreon, or if you want to join on YouTube and unlock the fancy emojis that I just spammed in the chat. Either way is fine with me, and any format is a form of support for the show. So if you just want to like the video and comment, this is also a way of supporting the channel. As a matter of fact, it's mandatory. I order you, I command you to do this. So again, if you've forgotten to like the video, please do like it, and if you share it, please do. I'm very grateful, and educate your friends, educate your family in any capacity, no matter the topic. Send them the videos, or even just to piss them off. You know, somebody who's you know, swallowing mainstream media propaganda, send them one of my videos and make them angry. Or maybe even better, wake them up. That would be nicer. So in any case, thank you guys very much. The goal is still 750. I'm still trying to get there, so I need your help. I need to hit the monthly goal, and of course, anyone who joins, I will gladly play a crab dance for you, as is my obligation and duty. So we're about 41 members away. That's it. 41 members. We've got 400 people watching. We only need a few of you to join, and I would be most content. So thank you guys again so much for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it very much, and you guys rock. So take care. Ma salama. Bye-bye. So you have another terrorist attack in Ukraine. This time it's the Kakhovka Dam. And the first thing the media do is blame the Russians. So let's see why the Russians would do it. They control the dam. They control the region. They need the dam to funnel water to Crimea, which is also under Russian control. They literally have zero motive. There is no motive. You know, the Washington Post in December published an article showing how Ukraine targeted this dam using American missiles, using the HIMARS system. They actually fired a missile at this dam to test if they could flood areas. Sound familiar? This is the same thing that we saw with the Nord Stream pipeline attacks, right? The first thing the press do is let's go and blame Russia. And now, almost a year later, the Washington Post finally admits that Ukraine, not Russia, Ukraine blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. This is something that I, myself, and others have been saying since the very beginning. Anyone with half a brain knew that it was not Russia. Russia would not blow up their own pipeline. But, you know, this was dismissed as a crackpot conspiracy theory that NATO would maybe do this, or Ukraine. No, that's Russian propaganda. And another example, the Nazi patches. This week, the New York Times also finally admit that Ukrainian soldiers en masse are wearing Nazi patches to the point that Western journalists have to ask them to hide the patches before they take photos of them. I mean, this is despicable on another level. And then later they claim that these are authentic photos. This is not journalism. This is curated propaganda. So are the New York Times and Washington Post doing propaganda now, right? They're doing Russian disinformation. These people are not doing journalism, all right? You guys are a year late. Only publishing the truth when nobody cares anymore. That's not journalism, okay? They are the ones doing disinformation. They are the ones doing propaganda. and these acts of state terrorism, blowing up pipelines and dams, European leaders say literally absolutely nothing, and all they do is give more money and more weapons to an army where men are wearing Nazi patches and blowing up our infrastructure. So what's the conclusion? Always ask yourself, who stands to gain? Whether we're talking about the Crimea Bridge, Nord Stream pipelines, or the Kakhovka Dam like today, always ask yourself who stands to benefit, and you'll find the answer, you'll find the truth. So everyone's talking about how Donald Trump has been indicted under the Espionage Act. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the Espionage Act is a law that has always been used in the United States as a political tool to silence opponents. It was crafted in 1917, so during World War I, and one of its most famous victims was Eugene Debs. He was given 10 years in prison and stripped of his citizenship because he gave an anti-war speech. Ellsberg, Manning, Kiriakos, Snowden, they were all charged under the Espionage Act as well, and none afforded a public interest defense. Yet another reason why the Espionage Act is a political tool to silence whistleblowers, quite literally, even in court. Even worse, it's also being used to threaten Julian Assange, a publisher, with almost 200 years in prison. So many people are upset about Trump putting classified documents in the bathroom. I wonder if they care just as much about freedom of speech and press freedoms. Trump definitely put America's national security at risk, not for bringing home documents, but assassinating Soleimani, the equivalent of Iran's defense minister. How come Trump's critics never attack him for actual crimes, like putting illegal sanctions on millions of people or stealing oil from Syria?
We're keeping the oil. We have the oil. The oil is secure. We left troops behind only for the oil.
If you love Ukraine, if you care about Ukraine, depleted uranium is the last thing in the world that you would tell them to use. If you look at what the United States have done, everywhere they've used depleted uranium, it's like dropping a nuclear bomb, and actually worse in other ways. Just to give you an example, in Fallujah in Iraq, guess what? 10, 20 years later, there are people in Fallujah who are being born with cancer. And it's so bad that you have higher rates of birth defects and congenital heart disease in Fallujah than you do in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. In Nagasaki and Hiroshima, you knew that there was a nuclear explosion and you had to get the hell away from there if you could. The thing is, the people in Iraq didn't know what the Americans had put in the tank shells. They dropped so much white phosphorus, they used so much depleted uranium. The people living there have no clue about this. The war is bad enough without knowing that, if you live there and you stay there, you're going to get cancer, and your kids are going to be born with these massive nightmarish birth defects. And now they want to bring this literally cancerous thing, depleted uranium, and use it in Ukraine. If you love Ukraine, if you care about Ukraine, depleted uranium is the last thing in the world that you would tell them to use, because guess who's going to suffer from that? The people in Ukraine, right? Like, if their idea is to liberate Ukraine, right? Okay, let's say that they do. Tomorrow morning, Zelensky's gonna emerge victorious over the Donbass and Crimea, and he's gonna go have a nice parade, right? Guess what? All the people returning to their homes, or all the people living there, you're gonna give those people in Ukraine cancer because you use depleted uranium, because this stuff goes in the earth. It seeps into the earth, into the soil, into the water. It's actually worse than a nuke, truly, because people don't even know that it's there. They have no clue that they're living next to things that are going to give them cancer and destroy their DNA and give their children massive birth defects. They don't even know that it's there. It's like a silent killer. They don't care about you, man. They don't care about you. This is bad for the environment, obviously. That doesn't even need stating. And it's bad for human beings, and it's bad for wildlife, for everyone. But it's good it's good if you manufacture it. It's very good. This is explosive. This is mind-blowing. How do we know that it's the Ukrainians who haven't held up their end of the deal, but the Russians have? The deal was that the Russians will pull out of Kiev. At the time, the media that we have here in the West, they were saying, oh, the Russians have failed. Their army sucks. That's actually not at all what happened. The Russians pulled back on purpose and left the capital. They left Kiev because of this peace agreement. Boris Johnson was the prime minister at the time, and he just randomly happens to go and visit Zelensky, and he tells Zelensky, drop out of the peace negotiations, drop out. Zelensky did what Boris Johnson told him to do. Angela Merkel, who is the German chancellor, she says that in the end, the Minsk agreement, it was just a ruse in order to buy time for NATO to arm Ukraine. This means that once again, you cannot take Western leaders and diplomats seriously. The Russians are done talking. This is the conclusion that I draw from this, because they have had it up to here with Ukraine and their backers and guarantors, you know, just playing games with them. So just remember the next time that the media tell you that the Russians walked away from peace talks, that this is a lie. And when they tell you the next time that Russia wanted this war, that this is a lie. Just remember these things.
Some in Iran wanted Iran to go to war with the Taliban. And actually they were liberals. They were the pro-Western liberals who were saying that we should, you know, go to the defense of the Tajiks, who are Persian speakers, the Hazaras, who are predominantly Shia, and the Uzbeks and others. They together are more than 50%. Taliban is basically Pashtun. They are 40%, roughly 40% of the country. It's sort of ironic because the people who are calling for Iran to wage war against the Taliban, they were totally against the Russians in Ukraine. Their logic is not dissimilar to the logic of the Russians. These people were saying we should go to the support of the Persian speakers. Why not the Russians support Russian speakers? But yeah, that hypocrisy is aside. The Iranian government said, look, we have to keep Afghanistan peaceful, and it's had enough war.
South Africa, China, Brazil, all these countries that are BRICS countries. So you know, they are partners with Russia. They're not condoning Russia. They're actually saying, hey, everybody calm down and let's resolve this. And all you see is media attacking them. They attacked South Africa for proposing diplomacy. They attack Lula for trying to sit down Zelensky. Zelensky makes him wait and then doesn't even show up to the meeting. I mean, how insulting in any context, right? Never mind a goddamn president of the largest country in Latin America. So they try to like attack the countries closest to Russia for actually suggesting peace. Maybe South Africa should give some F-16s instead of being a Putin puppet, right? Maybe China should send some F-16s instead of being a Kremlin asset.